Chapter 98. Please guarantee the monthly tickets and subscriptions. Thank you. Sigh. The hall master shook his head. He frowned and said, although it would be good to be able to reach that level, a single Dongfang Ting has already caused the Dongfang family to be like this. If another Dongfang Jun were to appear, I'm afraid that even the imperial family would not be able to contain the Dongfang family. That's true. The Dongfang family is truly. Hall master, how is that little guy called Chen Hao from earlier? He looks 16 or 17 years old, but is actually only 13 years old. Huang Qi thinks very highly of him. I also feel that there is a lot of hope. The vice hall master said. Huang Qi also told me that he still needs more time to observe that boy. Although it is rare to have a constitution that cultivates both martial and intent, it might not be a good thing. Judging from his appearance, he should have chosen to major in martial arts. That is quite wise. To be able to become a rank 4 martial monarch at the age of 13 and possess such battle power, he could definitely be considered an extremely rare genius. He is not inferior to Dongfang Jian, Bai Lixi, and Zhao Yunlong. If he can become a rank 6 martial emperor within 2 years, then there is hope. If not, he can at most reach the level of Dongfang Jian, Bai Lixi, and Bai Lixi. After all, after becoming a martial emperor, he could be stuck at every bottleneck for a year or even longer. The hall master shook his head and said. Hall master, you might not know this, oh? The hall master frowned. What is it? The star-shaking fist, that little guy has already cultivated it to the pinnacle. The vice hall master said. I can see that. Although the remnant star-shaking fist is extremely difficult to comprehend, there are several people in our new show hall who have cultivated it to the pinnacle. It is not strange, haha, as the great hall master, you might not have the energy to care about such trivial matters. You probably don't know that this little guy has only borrowed the star-shaking fist for 2 months, right? What? The new show hall master was clearly shocked. He said, you're saying that this little guy only used 2 months to cultivate the remnant star-shaking fist to the pinnacle? That's right. Chen Hao had no idea that because of Huang Qi, he had already entered the new show hall's upper echelon's line of sight. Chen Hao. Amen. Senior Fang, why have you come back? When Chen Hao had just walked a short distance into the mission hall, he was surprised to see Fang Qing and a few people chasing after him. I didn't go far before I heard that someone was challenging me. I didn't expect it to be you. Fang Qing's eyes, which seemed to be shrouded in smoke, said with a trace of surprise at this moment, your combat power is so strong. Is it serious? Chen Hao shook his head slightly and said, it's just a superficial wound. It doesn't matter. Why don't you join us for a quest? We accepted a multiplayer mission. Besides, this is your first time doing a mission, so it's inevitable that you won't be familiar with many things. Why don't you take this mission as well? If something happens, we can take care of each other. Fang Qing stated her purpose. Originally, Fang Qing was quite appreciative of her grandfather when he mentioned Chen Hao. Therefore, when she met Chen Hao, she expressed her goodwill. But that was all. After all, there was still quite a gap between Chen Hao's strength and her. But earlier, Chen Hao's complete victory over Dongfang Zhan caused Fang Qing to be shocked. Only then did she truly have the intention to rope him in. What's the rank? What's the mission? Chen Hao asked. The strength of Fang Qing and the others had already been investigated by Chen Hao with his sharp soul perception. Fang Qing and the other youth were intent, and should be the 2 strongest people in their team. Although it was difficult to see through intent after they restrained their auras, Chen Hao could determine that the 2 of them should have reached the 8th stage intent emperor realm. The other 2 men and 1 woman were all martial artists, 7th stage martial emperors. There's no rank. It's a special mission to find ruins. Excavate ruins? Yes, the ruins that our new show hall's disciples train in, like the Xianhuang ancient city that you went to last time, were mostly discovered through this kind of mission. If you can find the entrance to the ruins, the reward will be very generous. However, the probability of finding it is very low, so there's basically no need to consider the reward. But there are many disciples who accept this kind of mission. Fang Qing paused for a moment and continued, first, this kind of mission doesn't require much strength. As long as you can resist the demonic beasts in the area, you can accept it. Also, whether you can find the entrance to the ruins or not has little to do with strength. The most important thing is your own luck and opportunity. So, many people want to try their luck. Second, you can see the strength of the disciples of other countries. Usually, the genius disciples of the neighboring countries will also participate in this kind of mission. So, this kind of mission also has a lot of danger. Of course, as long as you avoid the disciples of other countries and don't have any conflicts, there won't be much danger. Are you going or not? If you go, we'll wait for you. If not, we'll set off. I'll think about it. Senior sister, don't wait for me. Go first. If you can't find a suitable mission, I'll catch up with you. Chen Hao seemed to be a little hesitant. Okay. Then we'll go first. Remember, don't accept missions that are too advanced. First, do simple missions to familiarize yourself. Yes, thank you, senior sister. After bidding farewell to Fang Qing and the others, Chen Hao's eyes shone with a bright light. His figure flashed and he quickly went to the mission hall. After a while, he found the mission to find ruins on the level 19 special mission board. Location, Magic Cloud Mountain. Jinyuan Kingdom, Deqian Kingdom, Jingyun Kingdom, and Dedian Kingdom. Mission time, the aura of ruins is expected to appear frequently within 2 months. Mission reward, cultivate in the Spirit Gathering Cave in the new show hall for half a year, choose any 3 spiritual level unique skills from the new show hall, 1 intermediate storage ring, 10 level 8 spiritual medicine, 1,000 level 7 spiritual medicine, and 10,000 level 6 spiritual medicine. Shoo, seeing the rewards, Chen Hao gasped. Any one of the rewards was extremely shocking. When he arrived at the new show hall in the Spirit Gathering Cave, Chen Hao already knew that only the chief disciple of the 3 halls was qualified to cultivate in the Spirit Gathering Cave for a month. The chief disciple of the intermediate disciples could cultivate in the Spirit Gathering Cave for 2 months, the chief disciple of the advanced disciples could cultivate in the Spirit Gathering Cave for 3 months, and the chief disciple of the new show hall for half a year. This was equivalent to becoming the chief disciple of New Excellence Hall and receiving a huge reward. As for the spiritual level unique skills, it was beyond the range of level 1 to level 9, and he could choose any 3. The worst rewards were the intermediate storage ring and spiritual medicine. But even these 2 items were very attractive to Chen Hao. Of course, Chen Hao was clearly aware that this assignment required extremely great fortune and karmic luck, and obtaining it was absolutely not a simple matter. Otherwise, the rewards would not be so generous. Don't get your hopes up. Most relics are left behind by super experts, and they have extremely powerful seals. Although I have an extraordinary sense for spiritual treasures, I can't pass through these seals that contain the supreme laws of the world. This is a great opportunity and great luck left behind by an ancient expert. Only those who have this kind of opportunity and luck can find it. However, the Demon Cloud Mountain Range runs through several big countries. There are countless spiritual herbs and demonic beasts. You can go in and cultivate. At this moment, the treasure-hunting sword spirit said in Chen Hao's mind. Well, let's try my luck. The aura of the relics should appear at a fixed time every year, but no one has found the entrance. Of course, it's not that simple. If I'm lucky enough to find it, that would be the best. It doesn't matter if I can't find it. The Demon Cloud Mountain itself is very suitable for training, and I can also meet the genius disciples of other countries. Chen Hao said in his mind. As he spoke, he walked to the window to accept the task. Soon, he received the detailed information of the task and a special antique token. What surprised Chen Hao was that this token turned out to be a magical communication rune. As long as he poured his yuan qi into it, the message could be sent back to the Royal New Show Hall at the fastest speed. It was very precious and only this kind of special task would be issued. After Chen Hao accepted the task, he returned to the dormitory again because of the time limit of the task. Knock, knock knock, knock knock knock. Chen Hao went directly to Helian Wuzi's door and knocked according to the way he and Moui had agreed on. Hearing the rhythm of the knocking, Helian Wuzi would know that it was Chen Hao. Walala, wait. The sound of water splashing and Helian Wuzi's voice came from the room. Others might not be able to hear it, but Chen Hao's extraordinary hearing could hear it clearly. This girl is taking a bath. Chen Hao frowned slightly, shook his head, and threw away the unhealthy thoughts in his mind. It was human nature to eat and lust. Chen Hao originally had the heart of an adult man, and now as he grew older, his body matured day by day. Facing a stunning girl like Helian Wuzi, it was normal to have some kind of desire. However, the current Chen Hao directly erased any of his thoughts. The land of warmth, the tomb of heroes. He understood this logic. Squeak! A moment later, Helian Wuzi's hair was dripping wet, like a lotus flower emerging from the water. Her beautiful little face carried a trace of redness after coming out of the bath. She was radiant and her whole body emitted a faint virgin fragrance as she appeared in front of Chen Hao. Why are you back? Helian Wuzi asked a little surprised. I took a mission, and it may take 3 months to go back and forth, so I came back to tell you. These 205 elements spirit pills, 100 of which are of the metal attribute are for Xiao Mo to refine and comprehend. 100 of which are of the mist attribute derived from the water attribute, you can refine and comprehend it yourself. If I don't come back, you can cultivate in seclusion, don't take on missions. Understand? Oh, there are still many 5 elements spirit pills. After I go out, I will go to the Chamber of Commerce in the Great Thousand City to exchange for some elixirs. By the way, I will see if I can help you buy a storage ring. Tell Xiao Mo. I'm leaving. Chen Hao just glanced at Helian Wuzi indifferently, then turned and left. The moment he turned, he said lightly, next time, no matter who it is, remember to put on clothes before opening the door. I'm talking about underwear, underwear? Helian Wuzi was slightly stunned. She looked down at her clothes, but then her little face became hot. She also heard Chen Hao knocking on the door and thought it was urgent, so she put on her clothes at the fastest speed and came out. She didn't think about anything else at all, but who would have thought that even she could see 2 clearly protruding little dots? How could they be exposed? When did they become so big? When she thought of being seen by Chen Hao and being scolded, she was so angry that her delicate body trembled. She waved her little fists at Chen Hao's back and scolded, "You bastard." 3rd update, looking for guaranteed monthly votes and subscriptions. The new book is very needed to be put on the shelves. Please, everyone, Wushan will write with all his might. There is still around 7:00 in the evening. 4th update. Come to vote for recommendation and monthly votes. Chapter 99. Under Huang Qi's stunned gaze, Chen Hao returned the 4 secret manuals and headed straight for the exit of the Royal New Show Hall. Walking out of the Imperial family's New Excellence Hall's main door, a gray fog once again appeared in front of his eyes. The main door was clearly beside him, but he could no longer catch a glimpse of its shadow. Traces of a mysterious aura still filled the fog. Even though it was his second time seeing it, Chen Hao was still shocked. After confirming the direction, Chen Hao's figure flashed and disappeared into the fog at lightning speed. The sky was high for the birds to fly, and the sea was wide for the fish to swim. Chen Hao, who walked out of the Royal New Show Hall alone, was like a bird that had been released from its cage. He no longer had any scruples. His figure was as fast as lightning as he advanced through the barren mountain range in the forbidden area. Along the way, many disciples who went out on missions were overtaken by him. After a few hours, he finally arrived at the official road. To reach the destination, I have to pass through nearly half of the Zhenyuan kingdom, which is nearly 10,000 kilometers. At my current speed, I should be able to reach it in about 10 days. I'm not in a hurry. I'll go to the Great Thousand City and prepare first. Chen Hao thought to himself as he sensed the vigorous yuan qi and the boundless mental strength in his mind. According to the mission information, the aura of the relic would appear about 20 days later. If there were no accidents along the way, he would definitely be able to make it in time. It didn't matter even if he was a few days late. After all, the aura of the relic would appear for 2 months. Now, Chen Hao should be going out alone for the first time, so he needed to prepare some things. Brother Chen. Hello. As Chen Hao ran on the official road and quickly approached the Great Thousand City, 2 youths, 1 male and 1 female, were walking in front of Chen Hao. They seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll, but their speed was extremely fast. However, they were obviously not as fast as Chen Hao. Just as Chen Hao was about to pass by the 2 of them, one of the youths suddenly spoke up. Hello. Chen Hao slowed down and cupped his fist slightly. Chen Hao had a deep impression of these 2 people. They were the personal disciples of some big shot, and their cultivations were lower than the Emperor realm. They were the new disciples of Cold Moon Hall, Chen Si and Xiao He. Are you going to do missions as well? Xiao He smiled and said, originally, when we were advancing to Martial Monarch, we wanted to form a team with the 3 of you. But you guys often don't leave the house, so we don't want to disturb you. Hee hee. Brother Chen, what level of mission did you take? Xiao He and Chen Si were both 15 years old. Other than Chen Hao, they were probably the 2 youngest people in the new show hall. However, the way they spoke and acted revealed a sense of maturity. There's nothing we can do. We're too weak. We can only cultivate with all our might. A few senior brothers and senior sisters that I know have accepted a special mission to search for ruins and are chasing after them. By the way, Brother Xiao, I wonder if you are familiar with the Great Thousand City? Chen Hao said with some reservations. He had deliberately left Fang Qing aside, so naturally, he did not want to associate with others. He said this just in case. A mission to find the ruins? We're the same. Of course, we're familiar with the Great Thousand City. We grew up in the Great Thousand City. The quiet girl, Chen Hao, seemed to be quite curious about Chen Hao. She said, what's the matter? I want to buy a better sword and a fasting pill. Chen Hao said. If that's the case, then go directly to the Luyun Chamber of Commerce. You'll definitely find something you like. The Luyun Chamber of Commerce is the largest cultivator chamber of commerce led by the royal family of the Zhenyuan Kingdom and jointly established by many major forces. There's an auction every other day. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll go first. I still have to chase after them. Okay. Okay. The 2 of them said. Although they did not know who Chen Hao's senior brothers and senior sisters were, they could clearly feel that Chen Hao did not have any intention of going with them. Of course, they did not want to go with Chen Hao either. Searching for ruins was not as dangerous as exploring the Xianhuang ruins. Their purpose was just to try their luck and gain experience. Chen Hao cupped his fists before his figure suddenly sped up like a wisp of smoke, and it wasn't long before he vanished from their fields of vision. Looking at Chen Hao's disappearing figure, Xiao He smiled slightly and said, this Chen Hao's strength has increased quite quickly. It's said that he has already reached the peak of 4th grade martial monarch in Xianhuang Ancient City and has the battle strength of a 5th grade martial monarch. Yeah, I don't think he's weaker than us. Chen Si said, we have to work hard too. We're all direct disciples. It'll be embarrassing if we lose, okay? Don't worry, we won't be weaker than him. The 2 of them clearly did not know that Chen Hao had already defeated Dongfang Zhan. Otherwise, they would not have said that. Great Thousand City, the Luyun Chamber of Commerce was located in the most prosperous area of the city center. It was dazzling and majestic. Dense qi shrouded the surroundings of the huge palace. It was obvious that an extremely powerful restriction had been set up. There were all kinds of people coming in and out. Some of them were dressed like rich people, some were ordinary people, and there were even more people who wore bamboo hats to cover themselves up. However, without exception, they all emitted a powerful aura. They were obviously cultivators. After entering the entrance, there was a huge palace. This was the reception center of the Luyun Chamber of Commerce. In the luxurious and spacious hall, there were beautiful attendants who were dressed elegantly and gracefully. When they saw the guests coming in, they would welcome them. Their sense of service was not inferior to that of a modern city. What was far superior was that these young girls were all cultivators. Moreover, they were all martial masters. At this moment, a figure slowly walked over. He was dressed in black and wore a black bamboo hat. His figure was not tall, but the aura he emitted was clearly that of a martial monarch expert. "Sir, is there anything I can help you with?" An attendant's eyes revealed a trace of surprise and joy. He went up to welcome him, bowed slightly, and said respectfully. The other attendants were slightly envious. It was not that this person was very strong. Based on his aura, they could guess that this person should be a martial monarch expert. This alone was not a big deal. After all, the Luyun Chamber of Commerce was the largest chamber of commerce in the Zhenyuan Kingdom. They saw countless martial monarchs in a day. There were even many martial monarchs. However, this person was very young. Observing people's expressions was a necessary quality for these attendants. Although this person covered up very well, they could be sure from his exposed hands and body shape. Such a young martial monarch must have a very high status. To be able to receive such a person, it was very likely that they would be able to make a big deal. "Do you sell storage rings here?" the person asked directly. His voice was indeed very young. This person was none other than Chen Hao in disguise. After all, he needed a lot of pills. For him who had already obtained the 5 elements spiritual root, the 5 elements spiritual pill could only be treated as an ordinary pill. That would be too wasteful. It was more cost-effective to exchange it for ordinary spiritual herbs. He also bought 3 more storage rings. He gave one each to Helian Wuzi and Moue, and used the remaining one for himself. Although he did not need it, he needed to use it to hide his identity. Before he was strong enough, he could not expose the fact that he had obtained the Heaven and Earth Ring and the 5 spiritual swords. He did not have the background of the 3 great clans, so he could only advance step by step. "Storage rings?" "Yes, yes." "Sir, please come in. I'll take you to see the manager." "Storage rings are more valuable things," the young girl said with a hint of surprise. "Okay," Chen Hao replied. Passing through the luxurious hall, Chen Hao walked into the Chamber of Commerce under the guidance of the young female attendant. A dazzling array of weapons, ores, and some unknown strange items were placed on the crystal counters. Countless people were choosing among them. Such popularity was indeed not something an ordinary chamber of commerce could compare to. Chen Hao followed the attendant and looked around to see if there was anything that interested him. The treasure-hunting sword spirit in his mind also sensed the aura around him. "Sir, please wait here for a moment. I'll call the manager, okay?" Chen Hao replied and casually browsed through the weapons placed beside him. A few flying daggers fell into Chen Hao's eyes. "Sir, what do you need?" The attendant at the counter saw Chen Hao's gaze and immediately said respectfully, "Is this a flying dagger?" "You can take a look. It's made by a master craftsman. The material is iron essence that has been tempered thousands of times. It's hard and extremely sharp. The price is also moderate. It only costs 10 level 6 spiritual herbs or elixirs." "So expensive?" Chen Hao took the flying dagger from the attendant and said with a little surprise. "Hee, little brother, this is not expensive. The items in our Luyun Chamber of Commerce are not ordinary items. I guarantee that you will get your money's worth." The flying dagger was as thin as a cicada's wing and exuded a cold aura. Purely based on the feeling, it was indeed much better than the small dagger that his father had given him. Moreover, it was more suitable as a hidden weapon. "Wow, Just as Chen Hao was holding the flying dagger and sizing it up, the surrounding crowd suddenly became restless. Chen Hao also hurriedly turned his head to look. "Hello, Director Yun, you're getting more and more beautiful." A stunning figure appeared in front of Chen Hao's eyes. Wearing a purple long dress, her skin was whiter than snow. Her entire body exuded a graceful and luxurious luster. The slightly low neckline made her exposed jade-like neck look particularly attractive. The fitting long dress showed off her graceful and enchanting exquisite figure. Her slender waist was like a swaying willow branch, oval face, willow leaf eyebrows, red phoenix eyes, cherry lips. Her exquisite appearance revealed a graceful and luxurious elegance. It also contained a natural charm. Purely looking at this woman's appearance, she was at most 20 years old. However, her extremely enchanting figure and dressing exuded a more mature charm. She did not have the slightest bit of youthfulness of a young girl. The woman smiled faintly and frequently nodded in response to the greetings of the crowd. She seemed to be used to the burning gazes. Following a young female attendant, she walked straight towards Chen Hao. "Sir, this is our Director Yun." When the young female attendant brought the woman to Chen Hao's side, she introduced her. Chen Hao's eyes, which were hidden behind the veil, narrowed slightly. Even he did not expect that the so-called director would be such an enchanting woman. In his heart, he could not help but admire the business acumen of the Luyun Chamber of Commerce. With such a stunning woman, most men would be too embarrassed to bargain. They would even puff themselves up at their own cost. Fourth update, 12,000 plus outburst has ended. Brothers and sisters, please support and subscribe. Those who have guaranteed monthly votes, please also vote for Dark Mountain. The new book on the shelves needs everyone's encouragement. Chapter 100. Thank you to Xiao Feng sent Drizzle for 100,000 coins to promote to AO Tian's Alliance Master, Summers Yu small copy for 100,000 coins to promote to Alliance Master, Shizhu female sign girl for 100,000 coins to promote to Alliance Master. Thank you to Tian, Jibei Chen Feng, Air Shi, Swaying Drunken Red, and Cold Moon Sang Sang for 10,000 coins. Thank you to GOMO for 5,888 coins and monthly votes. Thank you to Chuan Liang Wuzi, Shenzai Xie Qing, Qin Lu, Passionate Love comma. Luo Shi. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hello. Chen Hao greeted her indifferently. The woman smiled slightly, and her gaze wavered imperceptibly. Then, the smile on her face deepened. "Hello, shall we talk in the VIP room?" "Okay. I'll take all of these throwing knives. Can I take them away first?" "Of course." Hearing Chen Hao's words, the woman looked at the attendant behind the counter and smiled. "Help this gentleman put them away." Under many burning gazes, Chen Hao took the 9 flying knives and walked side by side with the woman into the VIP room. After both of them sat down, Chen Hao took the 9 flying knives. The woman smiled sweetly and said, "You sound very young. It's rare to be promoted to Martial Emperor at such a young age. If I'm not wrong, you should be a disciple of the Royal New Show Hall, right?" The woman's first sentence made Chen Hao frown. "Hee, don't worry. Our Luyun Chamber of Commerce is confidential to all customers. You should know that we are the royal family, which is an official organization. The new show hall is not a secret to our Luyun Chamber of Commerce. The disciples of the new show hall are also one of our main customers. My name is Yunfian, one of the directors of the Luyun Chamber of Commerce. It's nice to meet you." Yunfei Yan's beautiful eyes stared at Chen Hao as she spoke. A faint fragrance of orchids wafted around her body and it seemed to contain a trace of strange fluctuations. This was not some kind of seduction skill, but Yunfian's innate charm. If it was an ordinary man in close contact with her, he would have more or less been subdued by her charm. However, Chen Hao, who was staring at this enchanting and seductive beauty through the veil, curled his lips and said straightforwardly, "I'm sorry, Director Yun. Since I came out like this, I naturally don't want to reveal my identity. Let's get down to business. I need a storage ring. Hearing Qin Hao's words, Yun Fei Yen was slightly taken aback, but then she smiled sweetly and said, "It's all right. We have storage rings here, but they are all low and medium-grade storage rings. High-grade storage rings will only appear during the auction. Can you introduce it to me in detail? Capacity, price, etc." "I haven't seen a storage ring before," Qin Hao asked. "Of course. A low-level storage ring is 5 feet square. It's enough to store ordinary weapons and supplies. The price is 1,000 level 6 spirit pills. A middle-level storage ring is 10 feet square. The price is 20,000 level 6 spirit pills. A high-level storage ring is 3 feet square and above. It's not fixed. The bigger the space, the higher the price." "So expensive?" Qin Hao said in surprise. "This is the special price given by the disciples of the new show hall. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to buy it at such a low price." Yunfian said, "Which one do you want? If it's a low-level or middle-level storage ring, you can buy it now. If it's a high-level storage ring, you have to wait for the auction. It's not certain when it will be available." "I want a low-level storage ring. I want 3. Can you give me a discount?" Qin Hao didn't care about the beauty's identity and bargained. "Ha! Little brother, I've said that the Luyun Chamber of Commerce has always sold the storage rings at the lowest price for the disciples of the Royal New Show Hall. You will all be important figures in the Zhenyuan Kingdom in the future. How can we ask for a high price from you?" "Okay. Can I buy it with this kind of spirit pills?" Even though Qin Hao knew that a storage ring would be expensive, he didn't expect it to be so expensive. A low-level storage ring actually cost 1,000 level 6 spirit pills. What did 1,000 level 6 spirit pills mean? Even all the spirit pills in the Shao family wouldn't be enough. Yunfian looked at the spirit pills in Qin Hao's hand and was surprised. 5 elements spirit pills. "You are buying with this? Is there a problem?" "No problem. Of course, there's no problem," Yunfian hurriedly said, but she was very surprised. The Luyun Chamber of Commerce had learned about the Royal New Show Hall in Xianhuang Ancient City as soon as possible. At this moment, the Chamber of Commerce's top executives had already gone to the Royal New Show Hall to see if they could buy a part of it. "How do you calculate it?" "One is worth several level 6 spirit pills. Our new show hall's ratio is 1 to 10. Since you know about the new show hall, you should also know that it's part of my obligation to exchange in the new show hall. I can also get a reward corresponding to the level of benefits. This isn't something that can be measured with spirit pills. Don't worry. I'll give you a satisfactory price. 1 to 30. 1 5 elements spirit pill is worth 30 level 6 spirit pills. Deal. These are 205 elements spirit pills, which is equivalent to 6,000 level 6 spirit pills. After deducting 3,000 from the 3 storage rings, the remaining 3,000 will be deducted from the 9 throwing knives. Help me exchange them for level 7 spirit pills," Qin Hao said straightforwardly. 1 to 30 was better than he had imagined. It seemed that it was indeed as Yunfian said. The disciples of the Royal New Show Hall were given special treatment here. Therefore, he was too embarrassed to haggle over the price. "No problem, hee. How about I give you the throwing knives as a gift?" Yunfian suddenly said with a charming smile, her eyes full of seduction. Qin Hao faintly smiled and said directly, "Is there a condition?" "You're really smart, hee. The condition is very simple. This senior sister just wants to get to know you. There will be more opportunities for cooperation in the future." Yunfian smiled. Her tone was natural, intimate, but not flattering. Yet, it seemed a bit strange to call herself senior sister. How did she become senior sister? How come she's so close? Yunfian naturally saw the value of Qin Hao. She knew the details of the mysterious yellow treasure house for the first time. Most of the disciples only got 20 to 35 elements spirit pills. But Chen Hao took out 205 elements spirit pills. So, how could it be 205 elements spirit pills? To be able to get so many spirit pills among the geniuses, he naturally had the ability that ordinary people didn't have. Such a character, if she established a good relationship with him, it would certainly bring her great benefits in the future. As for calling herself senior sister, she naturally had her reasons. Senior sister. With such a beautiful senior sister like you, I naturally have no objection. But... don't be surprised. Later, you will understand why I call myself senior sister. Senior sister knows what you want to say. It's just that you don't want the people of the Royal New Show Hall to know that you got so many 5 elements spirit pills. You can rest assured that the Chamber of Commerce has its own rules. Any buyer or seller's information will not be disclosed. Of course, even if you don't agree, senior sister also knows who you are. Yunfian interrupted Chen Hao. Her seductive face shone with confidence as she said with a smile. You can guess. Your voice and figure indicate that you're less than 15 years old. And, the aura that you're exuding should be at the lower middle level of the emperor level. So, you should be one of the new disciples of the imperial family's new excellence hall. Moreover, you should be a direct disciple. In this batch of personal disciples, your 3 halls have a total of 13 people. Among the 13, there are 4 females, 9 males, and 9 males. Among the 9 males, senior sister knows 5 of them and has never seen the other 4. 2 of them are disciples of Zhang clan, the strongest clan in our Zhenyuan kingdom other than the 3 great clans. Zhang clan's disciples all cultivate the Wild Blade Heart Sutra and can be seen at a glance. They can be eliminated. The remaining 2 were personally selected by Chairman Fang Yuan in Lancang Province's Cloud State County. One is called Moue, and the other is called Chen Hao. Moreover, he took Chen Hao as his disciple. Moue contains a trace of sword intent and never leaves his sword. Chen Hao has a physique with both will and martial arts. You are Chen Hao. And I am Chairman Fang Yuan's personal disciple. Cough cough, Chen Hao was a little dumbfounded. No matter what, he did not expect the enchanting woman in front of him to know the Royal New Show Hall like the back of her hand. It was as if every disciple's name and characteristics were clearly in her mind. He had covered himself up so tightly, but he still could not escape her eyes. Senior sister is right, right? Junior brother Chen Hao. I'll take the flying dagger, thank you. I'm in a hurry, you should hurry up and help me get the storage ring and spirit pills. Chen Hao shrugged and said a little speechlessly. Since I've received the gift, I should at least show it to senior sister, right? After all, senior sister often goes to the new show hall. Yunfian's lips curled up as she stared at Chen Hao. She was very clear about her charm, but Chen Hao in front of her seemed to turn a blind eye to her beauty. Even though she had guessed it, he did not intend to reveal his true appearance and looked like he was in a hurry to leave. Is that okay? Chen Hao took off his bamboo hat and said. Seeing Chen Hao's handsome face, Yunfian was slightly stunned, but then she stared at Chen Hao and said, Do you hate senior sister? No. I just don't like women who are too beautiful and too smart. Hee. Thank you for the compliment. Senior sister is smart only for outsiders. In the future, if you need anything or want to sell something, remember to come to senior sister. Senior sister will definitely take care of you. Yunfian said with a charming smile, only 13 years old, you're even smarter than senior sister. Okay, senior sister will prepare it for you. It will be ready soon. This should be the area, right? 13 days later, Chen Hao appeared in a barren mountain forest. He stood at the top of a mountain and stared at the towering mountain in the distance, confirming with the mission map. The Demon Cloud mountain range stretched for tens of thousands of kilometers and ran through several countries. This area was the border area of the 4 great kingdoms, and also the area where the aura of the relic appeared. After bidding farewell to the enchanting senior sister, Chen Hao traveled day and night, and it took him a total of 13 days to arrive. At this moment, he was still wearing a black robe, but he had taken off his bamboo hat. Gazing at the figure in the distance that occasionally drilled into the mountain forest, Chen Hao could basically confirm that this was the edge of the mission area. After confirming the direction, Chen Hao operated the Art of Solitude in the remnant volume of the Art of Longevity to the 3rd level. Immediately, his aura was completely restrained, and he plunged into the barren mountain forest. There were still a few days before the aura of the relic fluctuated, and Chen Hao didn't want to waste time. Moreover, whether or not he could find the relic was just a matter of luck, and Chen Hao didn't have much hope. After all, the treasure-hunting sword spirit had said that most relics were sealed by super experts, and even he couldn't sense the entrance of the relic. This required opportunity and luck. Therefore, Chen Hao's main purpose was to gain experience, and with the help of the treasure-hunting sword spirit, it would be good to harvest some elixirs. However, as Chen Hao went deeper into the core area of the mission area, he didn't sense any demonic beast's aura for 4 hours. Instead, he sensed the aura of many cultivators, as if all the demonic beasts had disappeared into thin air. This was extremely strange for the Demon Cloud Mountain Range. P.S. First update. Begging for monthly votes, begging for subscriptions. I'm really shocked. 23,000 fans, but the subscription rate is not even 21, only 900. I'm very hurt. I beg for those who have the means and the ability to support and subscribe. Wushan can only write 1 chapter in 4 hours, and it only costs a few cents. I beg for everyone's help. Please rest assured, no matter how bad the results are, Wushan will steadily update until the end. An average of 200,000 words per month is achievable. This Wushan will do his best. With all his strength. I only hope that everyone can support and subscribe. Thank you very much. Chapter 101. The hazy sky was gloomy even though it was daytime. It was filled with an oppressive aura. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 7 days. As time passed, countless experts began to pour into this area, and the oppressive aura became heavier and heavier. The sky was covered with thick dark clouds, and no sunlight could be seen. Everyone felt as if there was a mountain pressing down on their hearts. Although their bodies did not feel any discomfort, they still felt a sense of suffocation. Rumble, in a secluded cave, Chen Hao, who was in the middle of cultivation, suddenly exited from his cultivation state as his body shone with a resplendent brown light. A few days ago, Chen Hao found this cave and started cultivating when he couldn't find any spirit herbs or demonic beasts. After all, there were still a few days before the aura of the relic appeared. He didn't want to waste his time in this meaningless search. He had already reached the peak of the 4th stage Emperor realm. Although he wanted to stabilize his realm through fighting, he couldn't find any demonic beasts. Now, he didn't have to deliberately stimulate the barrier. He naturally stepped into the 5th stage Emperor realm. Both his intent and martial arts had advanced. But now, he was forced to stop cultivating. A huge rumbling sound seemed to come from the depths of the earth. It made the whole earth tremble. Creaking sounds came from the cave. Gravel rolled and dust billowed. It seemed that the cave was about to collapse. At the same time, the entrance of the cave lit up. The hazy sky shone with a bright light. Whoosh! What's going on? Chen Hao rushed out of the cave as fast as lightning. He raised his head and looked at the light pillar in the distance. His eyes shone with extreme shock. What a rich spirit chi! Why are you still in a daze? Let's go and have a look. At this moment, a violent fluctuation came from Chen Hao's mind. The voice of the treasure-hunting sword spirit also appeared in Chen Hao's mind. Bang! Chen Hao stomped his feet. Like a rock spreading its wings, he turned into a streamer and flew toward the dissipating light pillar. Is this the aura of the relic? It's completely different from what the mission book said. Since I stepped into this area, everything seems strange. Chen Hao said in his mind as he moved forward quickly. It's the aura of the relic. The aura of this relic should have appeared for many years, but it had never been discovered. The strange situation this time might be a good thing for you people. Be careful, there are many auras that are stronger than yours. I can sense that the spatial fluctuations in this area are extremely intense, said the treasure hunting sword spirit. Intense spatial fluctuations? What do you mean? It's the collision between the space of the relic and the space we're in. If I'm not wrong, this relic has existed for a very, very long time. However, no one with great luck has ever obtained it. It's on the verge of collapse. Collapse? Are you saying that the ruins are going to disappear? Yes. There were many relics in the world, and most of them were inheritances left behind by super experts. Moreover, these ruins were supported by powerful restrictions and formations. For example, the Xianhuang ancient city ruins wanted to inherit the 5 elements spiritual roots. After you obtain the heartless spiritual root, the mysterious yellow treasure vault can be opened. After you obtain the mysterious yellow ring and the 5 elemental spirit swords that support the restriction, the mysterious yellow relic will collapse. Of course, even if no one obtains the 5 elemental spirit root, the mysterious yellow relic will still collapse as time passes. Now, the situation of the ruins may be on the verge of collapse. That's why such a change has occurred. Rumble, an even more terrifying sound was heard. The earth trembled, the mountains shook, and countless huge rocks rolled down. The speed at which the light beam dissipated seemed to have accelerated. A strong ancient aura and majestic spiritual chi of heaven and earth instantly enveloped an area of 100 miles. The entrance to the ruins may be opening. Quick, don't hold back any more strength. Let's go and have a look, said the treasure hunting sword spirit suddenly. Chen Hao was shocked in his heart. He immediately put on the black bamboo hat. Then, he stimulated the primary power and spiritual power in his entire body. The two kinds of energy fused together. Chen Hao was pleasantly surprised. He had just stepped into the 5th grade martial emperor realm. However, he felt as if he had escaped from the gravity at this moment. His entire body flew high into the sky, and turned into a streamer of light. The brown spiritual chi had turned into a light blue light that symbolized a martial emperor. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, while Chen Hao was frantically rushing over, the genius disciples who had been waiting in the core area also stared at the gradually dissipating light beam in shock and approached it at the fastest speed. Among them, more than 10 figures were flying in the air. Obviously, they had stepped into the martial emperor stage or the 7th stage emperor stage. Otherwise, no matter how fast they were, they couldn't completely fly in the air. Among these figures, there was Fang Qing and the 8th stage emperor stage in her team, as well as the number 1 expert among the new disciples of the Royal New Show Hall, Zhao Yunfei. In addition to the 3 of them, the other figures flying in the air were not disciples of the Royal New Show Hall. Obviously, they were genius disciples from the other 3 kingdoms. Chen Hao. When Fang Qing saw Chen Hao, she suddenly cried out in surprise. Chen Hao smiled and walked slowly to Fang Qing's side. When he was a few miles away from the light beam, he quietly landed. He took off his black clothes and bamboo hat and changed into the Royal New Show Hall's attire. Chen Hao was very clear that the mission to find the entrance to the ruins this time had completely deviated from the original track, causing everyone to gather here. Fierce conflicts were inevitable. In the past, when doing this mission, the disciples of the 4 kingdoms had been in constant conflict. However, these were all small group conflicts. But now, everyone was gathered here. Once a conflict broke out, it would be a competition between the disciples of the 4 great kingdoms' royal families' new excellence hall. If they were not united, they would definitely suffer. Chen Hao couldn't appear with his bamboo hat. If he did, he would probably be attacked by all the disciples of the 4 kingdoms. Because this mission could only be done by the disciples of the Royal New Show Hall of the 4 kingdoms. And now, the situation was exactly as Chen Hao had imagined. The dozen or so experts that had arrived first were clearly divided into 4 groups. They surrounded the dissipating light beam and looked at the other groups with hostility. Of the 4 groups, the Zhenyuan kingdom only had 3 people, Fang Qing, her group of youngsters and Zhao Yunfei. As for the other 3 kingdoms, 2 had 4 people and 1 had 5 people. Fortunately, Zhao Yunfei, who had become a rank 1 martial emperor half a year ago, was clearly much more powerful. "Didn't you say that you weren't coming?" Fang Qing asked in a low voice. "Senior sister, I said that I would consider it. Later on, I couldn't find a suitable mission. So, I chased after you. But, your speed was too fast. I didn't manage to catch up." Qinhao said, "What's going on?" "I'm afraid that the spirit formation protecting this remnant is on the verge of collapse. To us, this is an opportunity. Perhaps when this light beam disappears, the remnant will open. Junior brother, come with us later. This is Lu Yunfeng, a rank 8 intent emperor. He is your true senior brother. You should know this person." After Fang Qing finished introducing Lu Yunfeng, she pointed to Zhao Yunfei and said. Zhao Yunfei glanced at Qinhao arrogantly. He had an overbearing attitude. "I don't know him." Qinhao originally wanted to say that he knew him. However, when he saw Zhao Yunfei's appearance, he shook his head disdainfully. Zhao Yunfei frowned slightly. "Are you serious?" Fang Qing was slightly astonished. She said, "His name is Zhao Yunfei, the number 1 expert of your batch. This time, it might be very dangerous. We must stick together." "Fang Qing, is he useful?" "He has only become a martial emperor not long ago. Yet, he is hindering us. Once the remnant's entrance opens, it will only last for a short moment. I don't want to bring a burden with me." Although Qinhao's cultivation is low, he has the strength to defeat a rank 6 martial monarch. Rank 6 martial monarch? I can instantly kill him with just 10% of my strength. You think that's useful? Look at his strength. If we go, we will only be throwing away our lives. I don't want to be distracted by protecting him. Fang Qing frowned slightly. Just as she was about to say something, she was suddenly interrupted by a strange fluctuation. Hiss, 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 the pillar of light that was getting dimmer and dimmer suddenly flickered with a wave-like fluctuation. It seemed to have condensed into a transparent water ball with a diameter of several zhang. "It's opening. Quick. Go in." Fang Qing's eyes narrowed as she hurriedly said. While Fang Qing was speaking, several figures had already rushed toward the water ball as fast as lightning. Fang Qing and Lu Yunfeng also followed one after another. "Quick." The treasure-hunting sword spirit anxiously urged in his mind. Obviously, the treasure-hunting sword spirit had already sensed that the passage would only last for a short moment. However, the cold-looking Qinhao still did not move. "Fuck your mother." Qinhao cursed angrily. He suddenly stomped his feet and rushed into the water ball. There was nothing he could do. Qinhao felt very stifled. In this world, everything was decided by strength. How could he, who was proud and arrogant, endure Zhao Yunfei's arrogant words? Hiss! After more than a dozen figures, Qinhao was the last one to enter the water ball. A strange fluctuation instantly enveloped his body. What surprised Qinhao and everyone else was that this water ball did not seem to be a teleportation portal, but an extremely powerful restriction. Everyone, including Qinhao, was bound by a power that was completely beyond their understanding the moment they entered. Everyone's eyes widened in horror as they tumbled inside without any resistance. Whoosh! Just after Qinhao entered, a graceful figure flew in the air. It was impossible to see her appearance clearly. She was as fast as lightning and silently rushed into the water ball. If Qinhao and the others were still outside, they would definitely be able to sense that the aura of that graceful figure far surpassed all of them. However, at that moment, they did not notice that figure entering the water ball. That power that was completely beyond their understanding turned into invisible tendrils that seeped into their bodies through their pores. Even their minds could not escape or resist it. Everyone, including the graceful figure that entered last, sank into extreme pain. It was as if needles were stabbing into their souls, invading every inch of their bodies and every cell. P.S. Consolation for monthly votes. Dark Mountain has been dealt a heavy blow. 23,000 favorites and only a few subscriptions. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. I was full of confidence and thought that I could surpass the previous book by a lot. I did not expect this kind of result. When Dark Sky was published, it only had 13,000 favorites. The first day's subscription was 700. Proud Heaven only had 200 more. The first day's subscription was 900. Proud Heaven only had 200 more. The first day's subscription was 900. My heart was bitterly disappointed. Since I stayed up all night, I was groggy and only wrote 2 chapters. I slept to adjust my state of mind. I hope that my friends who read Proud Heaven will not be stingy with their subscriptions. That is the guarantee of Dark Mountain's livelihood, and also the source of my passion for writing. Please support Dark Mountain with a bit of passion and subscribe. Those who have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. Thank you. Chapter 102. Ah, in just half a minute or so, more than a dozen figures cried out at the same time. Like arrows, they shot out in all directions from the water ball. They tumbled and flew for more than 100 feet before stabilizing themselves and landing on the ground. Bang! At the same time, the water ball let out a muffled explosion and dissipated. The dozen figures all had lifeless expressions, as if they had been drained of their strength. Their faces were pale as they stared at the water ball that was no different from their surroundings. Zhao Yunfei, Fang Qing, Lu Yunfeng, and the 13 people from the other 3 kingdoms were all present. Where's Chen Hao? Fang Qing looked around and did not see Chen Hao's figure. She said in shock, could it be that he, choosing the inheritance of the remnants? How is this possible? That brat was only a mid-grade martial emperor. Why would it choose him? A genius youth from the great Qian kingdom, who looked at most 15 years old but whose aura had clearly reached the martial emperor realm, said with an extremely ugly expression. This genius youth was called Yi Mingho. He was only 14 years old and was the 3rd prince of the great Qian kingdom. He was only a year older than Chen Hao. He started cultivating when he was 12 and became a martial emperor when he was 13. He became a martial emperor before he was 14. His cultivation talent and comprehension were rarely seen in 100 years. He was known as the #1 genius of the great Qian kingdom. Furthermore, he replaced his elder brother as the crown prince of the great Qian kingdom. Even Chen Hao could not be compared to him for the time being. The reason was very simple. Although Chen Hao had only cultivated for a little more than a year and became a rank 5 martial emperor and martial emperor were 2 different concepts. Even if Chen Hao was a rank 9 martial emperor, it could only be said that Chen Hao had hopes of surpassing Yi Mingho. Only when Chen Hao became a martial emperor would he be able to reach the same level. That was because the barrier from martial emperor to martial emperor could not be broken without extremely high comprehension and physical talent. Merely from the royal new show hall, one could tell that Dongfang Jun, Bailey Yan, and Zhuge Qingyun were already rank 9 martial monarchs when they entered the royal new show hall. They were all first-rate geniuses. Yet, even after several months had passed, they still had not broken through to martial emperor. Even Dongfang Jun, who had been cleansed and reborn by a super expert and had no bottlenecks before becoming a martial saint, had only just begun his closed-door training to break through to the martial emperor realm. It was not certain when he would succeed. One could imagine how difficult it was to break through the bottleneck from the martial emperor realm to the martial emperor realm. Legacy selection. Crown Prince. Do you mean that kid entered the ruins? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. It must be because his cultivation was too low that he was killed by the water ball. How can my, Yi Mingho's, talent be compared to that brat? Humph. Even if he enters the ruins, he'll probably die of old age inside too. Is the inheritance so easy to obtain? Yi Mingho said with a gloomy expression. Although he said so, he knew in his heart that the kid might have really entered the ruins. The four youths beside Yun Mingho were also martial emperors. However, it was obvious that Yun Mingho was their core. Of course. How can our crown prince's talent and comprehension be compared to a puny martial emperor? Yes, yes. Crown Prince Mingho is a once-in-a-thousand-years genius. If that brat is really lucky enough to be chosen, he'll also die of old age inside. While Yi Mingho and the others were talking, many disciples from various countries arrived one after another. The hazy sky and the thick dark clouds began to dissipate quickly. The ancient aura of the ruins also disappeared. The originally dense fluctuation of heaven and earth's spiritual qi also ceased to exist. Fang Qing, Xiao Yunfei, and the genius disciples from various countries also frowned deeply. Obviously, most of the disciples who came from powerful forces were very knowledgeable. They had already realized that Qin Hao might have entered the ruins. It was very likely that he would also obtain the inheritance of the ruins. More and more people gathered. Fang Qing's group, Xiao Yunfei's group, and the small groups from various countries were all discussing animatedly. From time to time, people would look at Fang Qing. Obviously, Qin Hao had become the center of everyone's discussion. As for Fang Qing, who had a good relationship with Qin Hao, she became the focus of everyone's attention. This situation lasted for more than 10 minutes before people chose to leave one after another. Once the inheritance of the ruins was entered in this way, only by truly obtaining the inheritance would one be able to open the entrance of the ruins and walk out. Otherwise, one would have to wait until the ruins collapsed and turn into ashes along with the ruins. True geniuses who had reached the martial emperor level like Yi Mingho and Xiao Yunfei were of course not afraid. However, Qin Hao was only a martial emperor. Whether Qin Hao could successfully comprehend the power of the inheritance and walk out of the ruins was indeed a problem. Half a day later, the mission ended prematurely due to the changes in the ruins. Fang Qing and the others did not waste any message talismans. Instead, they chose to rush back to the Royal New Show Hall as quickly as possible. There was no way to rush this matter. Qin Hao had entered for at least 2 months, or even more than half a year. He might never come out. No one knew that Qin Hao was not the only one who had entered the ruins. In the ruins. Crack. Hiss, a thunderbolt exploded in the distance. Countless flashes of lightning flickered, but the strange thing was that the color of the thunderbolt was extremely mellow white. It was completely unlike the blue electric light of a real thunderbolt. Qin Hao felt as if he was in the clouds, but also as if he was floating in the water. That thunderbolt was very far away, but Qin Hao felt waves of numbness all over his body. Qin Hao was extremely shocked. His eyes were wide open as he stared at this strange space. There was no sky or earth. His entire body was covered in a vast expanse of whiteness. He was actually quietly suspended in the void. It was obviously air, but this air was viscous, like liquid. It was like a white sticky substance, but miraculously, there was no feeling of suffocation. This was a type of energy that Qin Hao could not understand at all. When he inhaled, he could clearly feel it entering his body like water waves. When he exhaled, it was completely exhaled. There was actually not a trace of it that could be absorbed. Qin Hao could clearly feel the strength of this energy. He activated his mental power and origin power to the extreme, but after this gas sank into his dantian, he could not refine it at all. Kacha, what the hell is this place? What kind of energy is this? When that strange thunderbolt erupted again, Qin Hao asked in his mind in shock. But, what puzzled Qin Hao was that the treasure-hunting sword's spirit did not respond at all. There was not even a trace of fluctuation in its mind. It was clearly communicating with him just now, telling him that the soul-piercing pain was a test for the inheritance of the ruins to choose the person with the opportunity. As long as he passed, he would be able to enter the ruins. But why was it so silent now? Chen Hao shouted several times in his mind, but there was still no response, which made him extremely depressed. It became a coward at the crucial moment. Motherfucker. Chen Hao could not help but curse, and he secretly hated himself for being inexperienced. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be ignorant of the current strange situation. Chen Hao did not know that at this moment, the treasure-hunting sword's spirit was terrified to the extreme. Before entering the ruins, it was still excited. As long as Chen Hao could enter, he would definitely have a good harvest. It had already released its perception to its heart's content, and it was ready to help Chen Hao do a great job. Chen Hao was quite loyal to his friends when he obtained the harvest from the Xuanhuan treasury last time. He did not embezzle the military pay. It was much better than its previous master. Of course, it had to do its best, but what it did not expect was that because of its excitement and unreserved release, it almost lost its life. Spirit, the so-called sword spirit, saber spirit, or any weapon spirit, was a spiritual existence that could only be born after the cultivator's long-term telepathy with the weapon. It was different from the souls of humans, demon beasts, and other life forms. They were only a condensed consciousness, an object of extreme yin, also known as a yin spirit. The treasure-hunting sword's spirit was such an existence. If its original body, which was the treasure sword, still existed, it was nothing. Because that was the place it protected and lived. It was equivalent to the physical body where the human soul hid. But now, it did not have a physical body at all. It was just a yin spirit, and it lived in Chen Hao's mind. And when it fully released this aura, it happened to meet its nemesis, pure yang vital essence. Chen Hao quickly calmed down, his eyes shining with a bright light as he carefully looked around. His perception had been completely confined to half a meter around him. Just as Chen Hao was looking around, there was a sudden fluctuation in front of him. A hazy and illusory door appeared in front of him. On one side of the door, there was a milky white stone tablet suspended in the air. On the stone tablet, there were faintly flickering words. Chen Hao didn't even think about it and quickly approached. 9 Revolving Heavenly Sun Technique. After Chen Hao saw the words on the stone tablet, his pupils shrank as he read it out loud. 9 Revolving Earth Yin Technique. A light, slightly immature, like the voice of a young girl, almost at the same time as Chen Hao, sounded from the other side of the space of the ruins. Such a dense and pure Yin remnant, I'm afraid that even father can't condense it. At least grandfather can. Hee. Grandfather said that Yu has the 9 yin absolute meridians. This 9 revolving earth yin technique will definitely be very suitable for Yu. The young girl's pair of beautiful eyes smiled sweetly as she said. This young girl looked to be 16 or 17 years old. Her body was curvaceous and incomparably graceful, like a fresh flower that had just ripened. A little more would be more enchanting, and a little less would make her seem slightly immature. And that small face was even more so. Her brows were picturesque, perfect to the point that there were no flaws, but the girl's clear eyes were filled with childlike innocence, like the eyes of a baby, extremely pure. It was completely incompatible with her figure and clothes. Anyone who saw this pair of eyes would probably have a tender heart. The young girl's left hand was wearing a sparkling purple bracelet. Within the bracelet, there was a faint ball of purple chi flowing, as if it was a living thing. If Chen Hao saw it, he would naturally not recognize it. Even some of the upper echelons of the Royal New Show Hall would not recognize it. But special people like Huang Qi would definitely be incomparably shocked. Purple Crystal Jade Essence. The purple crystal jade essence that had endless benefits for cultivators. Even if the purple crystal jade essence had not been condensed by any expert, it was still priceless. And the young girl's bracelet clearly contained extremely powerful runes, making it even more immeasurable. Just the storage space alone was countless times greater than that of a high-grade storage ring, not to mention the various wonderful uses it contained. Third update. Dark Mountain is writing at the speed of a tortoise, unable to achieve a burst of 4 or 5 chapters. Without a stockpile of chapters, this is pretty much Dark Mountain's limit. From yesterday until now, I've slept for a total of 5 hours. Tomorrow morning, the update might be late. If you have monthly votes, please support Dark Mountain. Thank you. Chapter 103. Clear sky is yang, heavy earth chi is yin. Chen Hao and the young girl spoke at the same time. Move, fire, light, thunder, day, man, life, sun, heaven, are the 9 suns, still, water, darkness, rain, snow, night, woman, death, moon, earth, are the 9 yin, 9 revolving heavenly sun secret art, first revolution, yang birth, 9 revolving earth yin secret art, first revolution, calm heart, birth of yin. Chen Hao and the young girl read the first revolution of the secret art almost at the same time, as well as the scene they would face after entering the door. Their hearts were like a mirror. Walking through the hazy door, the two stepped into their respective palaces. One was a space formed by pure white yang yuan stones, the other was a space formed by pure black yin yuan stones. Chen Hao looked at the wall. It was also at this moment that the surrounding aura suddenly surged and condensed into a wisp of extremely pure light. Like a brush, it floated to the wall in front of Chen Hao. Then, a thin line gradually gave birth to a figure at an astonishing speed, as if it was drawing a painting. When this figure with a strange posture completely appeared in front of Chen Hao's eyes suddenly widened, his mind surging. Shoo! Chen Hao sucked in a breath of cold air, extremely shocked as he said, "What a beautiful girl." Fortunately, it's just a person in the painting. If there really was such a girl in the world, what would happen? I'm afraid even this inheritance of the ruins is really interesting, to use this beautiful girl to mess up my state of mind? If it was a real person, I'm afraid I would really be a little confused, but it's just an illusory figure. Chen Hao's deep black eyes shone with rays of light, his voice clear and bright as he said. But although he said so, Chen Hao's gaze was still fixed on the lifelike young girl in the painting. Her eyebrows were distant, her eyes were clear, and her figure was graceful, especially those eyes. Even if it was just a painting, it had already caused ripples in Chen Hao's calm heart. This was a phenomenon that had never happened in the past. The two of them did not have it, and the current him also did not have it. But now it was real. Humph. Chen Hao coldly snorted and took a deep breath. In his mind, he decisively swung his sword and cut off the ripples in his heart. Relying on his rock-solid willpower and temperament, he instantly adjusted himself to a state of complete focus. The first mantra of the 9 revolutions heavenly sun technique that he had just seen appeared in his mind. His eyes shot out like lightning and suddenly stared straight into the girl's eyes. Boom! When his eyes met those lifelike and beautiful eyes, a mysterious aura suddenly erupted from the girl's eyes, turning into 2 beams of light that connected with Chen Hao's eyes. At the same time, Chen Hao's eyes became sluggish for a moment, as if he had fallen into a strange realm. Immediately after, a beautiful and graceful figure appeared in his mind. In his mind, a set of fist techniques appeared. According to the inscription, it was a body technique. Hi! Chen Hao almost lost control of his mind. Fortunately, he was mentally prepared since long ago, and he suddenly exploded out with a loud shout. He moved according to his heart's desire, imitating the peerless figure in his mind as he moved about, punched, and kicked. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, sweat dripped down like rain and he panted like an ox, but Chen Hao clenched his teeth and completely immersed himself in this powerful body technique. Chen Hao was very clear that this was the inheritance of the ruins. The first style of the 9 revolutions heavenly sun technique was only the beginning. Only by using all his strength to comprehend and break through would he be able to quickly obtain the inheritance and leave the ruins. In the beginning, Chen Hao's body was always half a beat away from the image in his mind. His dancing figure also had a lot of jerkiness and sluggishness, but as time passed, Chen Hao's figure gradually became one with the image in his mind, achieving the state of body and mind as one. After a full 6 hours, Chen Hao's body and mind as one had reached the state of body and mind as one, forgetting the body technique in his mind, forgetting that he was dancing along with it. A faint faintly discernible mysterious aura gradually emitted from Chen Hao's body. Chen Hao did not have any consciousness at all. After finishing the last round, he naturally stopped. The image in his mind disappeared, but Chen Hao was completely exhausted. With a plop, he lay on the ground with his limbs facing the sky, staring at the image of the young girl that was slowly disappearing on the wall. When the first image of the young girl disappeared, the mysterious brush began once again. It was still that beautiful girl, but in a completely different posture. Chen Hao knew that he had already passed the first style, and now it was time for the second style. It's the hateful meditation again, Yu Yu doesn't like it. The young girl's pink and attractive cherry lips pouted. Looking at the wall in front of her, she said, if I had known, I wouldn't have come in. But Yu Yu can't go out. If too much time passes and father and grandfather find out that Yu Yu sneaked out, that would be bad. After the young girl walked through the door, she said with a hint of coquettishness. Obviously, this young girl did not take the ruins seriously at all. She came in because she thought it was fun, but after coming in, she had to practice the most hateful meditation, so she was not happy. But the young girl was very clear that if she wanted to leave the ruins, she had to master the 9 revolutions Earth-Yin formula. Otherwise, even she would not be able to leave the ruins. Hiss hiss, at this time, there was a fluctuation in the air. Like Chen Hao, the same scene appeared in front of the young girl. Huh? The young girl suddenly opened her clear and beautiful eyes wide in surprise. A figure slowly appeared in front of the young girl. His figure was not tall, but he was very handsome. Especially his eyes, they were as bright as stars, emitting a sense of disdain and arrogance that came from the depths of his bones. He was obviously not old, but his eyes made the young girl's heart tremble. He's the owner of the ruins? So handsome. He doesn't look as old as Yu Yu, but he seems very powerful. Grandfather said that Yu Yu is a cultivation genius that only appears once in 1,000 years, but Yu Yu is only a 9th-grade martial saint. The gap between us is so big. Grandfather must be trying to make Yu Yu happy. Yu Yu needs to quickly cultivate. Since you are the owner of the ruins, don't make things difficult for Yu Yu. Quickly let Yu Yu master it, or else grandfather and father will scold Yu Yu. The young girl stared at the young man on the wall and said innocently. As she spoke, she slowly sat cross-legged in front of the portrait. The first cycle of the 9 revolutions Earth-Yin formula appeared in her mind, and she stared at the eyes of the portrait. One moving, one still. They started at the 2 ends of the ruins. Neither of them knew of the other's existence, and they did not know that the portrait they were looking at was the other. But they had the same goal, which was to quickly obtain the inheritance of the ruins and leave the ruins. It had to be said that the super expert who left behind the inheritance of the ruins had great abilities and wisdom that ordinary people could not imagine. He did not miss any details, even the portrait they saw was replaced with the other's figure. Bang! 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 At the edge of the Magic Cloud Mountain Range, origin power and mental energy crisscrossed as hundreds of figures fought together. Zhao Yunfei, Fang Qing, Lu Yunfeng, and the others were among them. Their faces were filled with anger as they fought and retreated. Rumble. A terrifying explosion suddenly exploded in the void. Zhao Yunfei's figure was immediately pushed back, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. Ha ha ha. The number 1 new disciple of the Zhen Yuan kingdom is only a so-so. Yi Mingho, what are you doing? Fang Qing furiously urged her mental energy to catch the seriously injured Zhao Yunfei and said angrily. After the aura of the ruins disappeared, everyone knew that the mission had ended early due to the changes in the ruins, and they returned. But they did not expect that when they reached the edge of the Magic Cloud Mountain Range, they were stopped by Yi Mingho and the others of the Deqian kingdom. Both sides were proud geniuses, and the flames of war were about to be triggered. What am I doing? This crown prince has already said that this is only a warm-up before the new talent ranking battle. It's that kid's fault for ruining this crown prince's plans. Ha ha ha. Let's go. Now that we've beaten up the younger ones, the older ones will be here soon. They're not people we can deal with. Yi Mingho. Just you wait, Zhao Yunfei, will definitely avenge today's humiliation in the new talent ranking battle 1.5 years later. Save it, this crown prince has only just stepped into the martial emperor realm, and you're already no match for me. During the new talent ranking battle, you're not even fit to carry my shoes. Yi Mingho, want to be number 1. Why don't you go back and tell the advanced disciples of the new show hall that they're called Dongfang Jian, by Li Shi, Zhao Yunlong. Oh, Zhao Yunlong should be your elder brother, right? This crown prince, Yi Mingho, will defeat them and the advanced disciples of the other kingdoms and ascend to the top of the new talent ranking battle of the 8 kingdoms. Ha ha ha. As Yi Mingho spoke, his body turned into a strand of lightning. He brought the great Qian kingdom's disciples and rapidly returned to his own kingdom. Only his domineering and insufferably arrogant voice could be heard. This time around, there were a total of 50+ disciples from the Zhenyuan kingdom's new show hall. At this moment, all of them had extremely humiliated expressions on their faces. Countless of them were injured, and several of them were seriously injured. It could be said that they were completely suppressed by the great Qian kingdom. If it wasn't for the fact that they had a transmission talisman to notify the experts of the new show hall, it was likely that they would not only be seriously injured. There was blood at the corner of Zhao Yunfei's mouth. He was tightly clenching his teeth and his eyes were spitting out flames. Before he entered the royal new show hall, he had already been a martial emperor for half a year. Now, an entire year had passed. He had already reached the peak of rank 1 martial emperor. However, Yi Mingho, who had clearly just become a rank 1 martial emperor, had actually defeated him in a berserk manner. There was still a year and a half before the biennial new talent ranking battle of the 8 kingdoms. Although Zhao Yunfei was a newly advanced disciple, he was already the number 1 expert among the initial disciples. He believed that during the new talent ranking battle, he would definitely be able to obtain a good ranking. At the very least, he would definitely be able to reach the peak among the initial disciples. This was already a very high goal. After all, within the 8 kingdoms, the Zhenyuan kingdom's strength was only average or even slightly below average. However, he never expected that Yi Mingho would actually be so arrogant as to aim for the top of the new talent ranking battle. Roar! The humiliated Zhao Yunfei's heart of an expert was not destroyed by Yi Mingho. Instead, he faced the sky and let out a furious roar. His body suddenly turned into a ray of light and flew toward the depths of the Demon Cloud mountain range. What I've done today, I will definitely return it 100-fold in the future. What? Qin Hao might have entered the remnants. After Yi Mingho and the others left, after Zhao Yunfei left in humiliation, Fang Qing, who had clearly displayed her astonishing strength in the battle earlier, became the core of the crowd. Together, they returned to the royal new show hall. In less than 4 hours, the expert that had rushed over to the royal new show hall was actually Huang Qi, the gatekeeper uncle. Furthermore, he was the only one. When Huang Qi heard what Fang Qing had said, he immediately spoke in shock. P.S. First update. I'm not sure what time the next update will be. Wushan has finished writing one chapter after another. Not aiming high, giving himself pressure. This time, Wushan will do his best. Friends with monthly votes, please vote for Wushan. Give Wushan some encouragement and passion. Thank you. Chapter 104. Beginning to work hard on the 3rd update, seeking monthly votes and subscriptions for support, thank you. Thank you for yesterday's, Mo Qingyi 5664, Lone Star and Moon 4364, Passionate Love 588, Chuan Liang Wuzi 588, Rosy Cheeks 588, Newbie Post 588, Phone by 100, Forever Unchanged Me 100, Demon King's Tears, Uxjuan, Book Lin Fei, Dream is already dead, for their support. Thank you. Half a month later. Yang was born when the body moved, Yin was born when the heart was still. Qin Hao and the young girl were cultivating at 2 different places. One was still and the other was moving. Although the two of them did not have the slightest connection, but their cultivation seemed to be inextricably linked and involved. They actually completed the first revolution at the same time without a difference of a second. A hazy and illusory door appeared on the wall. At the same time, the second revolution of the 9 heavenly sun technique and the 9 earth yin technique appeared. After the two of them looked at the mantras, they stepped through the door at the same time. After entering the strange room, the other person's image appeared on the wall again. The image was sitting cross-legged with a spirited gaze. They did not know if it was an illusion, but the two of them felt that the other person was staring at them. This feeling came from the subconscious. It was like looking through time and space. Looking back for 100 years, meeting for 1,000 years. In the other person's eyes, they could see the depths of the other person's soul. Chen Hao was shocked by the purity of the pair of eyes. He saw an extremely pure soul. He saw the girl's innocence and every frown and smile of the girl. The girl could see more from the young man's firm and cold eyes. It was an unyielding soul, a young man who looked down on the world and looked down on the common people. He seemed emotionless, but she could feel the warmth and gentleness in the depths of his eyes that were deliberately sealed in ice. The shock in the girl's heart was not something that Chen Hao could compare to. The joy in her heart was also not something that Chen Hao could understand. The slightly childish but extremely intelligent girl stared at the pair of eyes and actually laughed out. It was as if she had discovered the secret hidden in the depths of the other person's heart. She muttered, "You can't hide it from Yu. Yu understands you. Seeing that Yu understands you, quickly let Yu comprehend it, he." When the two of them seemed to have telepathy, they sat down cross-legged facing the image at the same time. When they fused the second revolution of the mantras, their eyes emitted a light and connected with each other's image. Boom boom, voila, on one side, he felt as if he was in a sea of fire, the raging flames burning all over his body. On the other side, he was drowned by a bone-chilling flood. Chen Hao felt as if he was being burned by a raging fire, while the girl felt as if she was being invaded by ice water. One fire, one water. Time passed slowly. Magic Cloud Mountain Range, where the entrance to the relic appeared. 3 figures stood there. The 3 people were Huang Qi, Helian Wuzi, and Mo Yui. It's been 2 months. Let's go. Huang Qi said, the new show hall's year-end ranking competition is about to begin. You two must participate. Uncle Emperor, can he still come out? In merely 2 months' time, the aura around Helian Wuzi's body clearly had a shocking increase. Even if she didn't deliberately release it, her entire body was enveloped in a hazy icy aura. Her entire person seemed to be situated within a faint mist, giving people a kind of faintly discernible feeling. Coupled with her exquisite and mature figure and beautiful little face, she was like a fairy that had descended to the mortal world and could ascend at any time. But at this moment, her brows were deeply furrowed, and she asked with a trace of worry. Boss will definitely come out. Mo Yui's expression was cold, and his voice was as sharp as a sword. Of course. Huang Qi also said with extreme certainty. That kid's physical aptitude and comprehension are all first-rate. Since this relic has chosen him, old man believes that he will naturally be able to come out. It's just a matter of time. At most. How long? Last time you said 1 month, then it became 2 months. Now it's already been 2 months. Are you going to say 3 months? What made Huang Qi's old face turn red was that Helian Wuzi's ethereal and cold voice actually said so. Cough cough. Little Wu, although old man knows that he will definitely come out, but as for what kind of relic this relic is and what kind of inheritance it has, old man has no way to judge. You only need to know one thing. The later he comes out, the more powerful the inheritance of this relic is. Once he comes out, his strength will also have an astonishing increase. What you and little Mo have to do is not to wait, but to do your best to cultivate. This is also the reason why old man forced you to complete the mission in these 2 months. Otherwise, when he walks to the next level, he'll leave all of you far behind. In the end, he'll become a person of 2 different worlds. Huang Qi had always been frivolous, but this time, there was a rare solemn expression on his old face. Hearing Huang Qi's words, Helian Wuzi and Mouyui's expressions were different, but their eyes shone with a trace of light. When Helian Wuzi and Mouyui learned that Qin Hao had stepped into the relic and did not know how long it would take, or whether he would be able to come out, they stubbornly walked out of the Royal New Show Hall and went to the place where the entrance to the relic had appeared. Fortunately, with Huang Qi, the two did not delay their cultivation. Almost every day, they hunted demonic beasts in the Demon Cloud Mountain Range or meditated beside Huang Qi. When Huang Qi, this old man, was waiting for Qin Hao, he became the bodyguard, sparring partner, and instructor of the two. This was something that no one expected. Even Huang Qi did not expect it. Huang Qi was the gatekeeper uncle of the New Show Hall. Although he had a special identity, and in the New Show Hall, even the hall master and vice hall master would not care about him, that was after all his duty. But this time, after the New Show Hall received the news that Qin Hao might have entered the relic, he applied to go and take a look. But he did not expect that the hall master and vice hall master would let him guard Qin Hao so easily. When did the hall master and vice hall master care so much about Qin Hao? It was also because of this that the three of them formed the current team. So, in this year's end-of-year competition, all of you have to work hard for me and get good results. Otherwise, if old man's guess is not wrong, when that kid comes out, he will definitely scold all of you. Mouyui's expression changed, as if there was a lingering fear in his heart. It was obvious that Qin Hao had left a shadow in his heart after more than a month of special training for him and Helian Wuzi. But Helian Wuzi's face instantly flushed red. Scolding? If only it was as simple as scolding. I believe that with your current strength, entering the top 20 shouldn't be a problem. Xiao Wu has already comprehended the three types of energy of water, ice, and mist. That is to say, she has completely comprehended the basic and derivative properties of the water attribute. Although she is still unable to display the true power of these three types of energy, as long as she uses them properly, her battle strength can increase by several times. It is even possible to enter the top 10. Little Mo is also not bad. You have actually comprehended the metal attribute, which complements your sword intent. As long as you maintain an incomparably sharp heart, entering the top 20 will not be a problem. In the last few days, if you can break through to 7th stage Martial Emperor, your ranking may be even higher. Huang Qi said. At this moment, Helian Wuzi and Mouyui had already stepped into 6th stage Martial Emperor under the special training of the super instructor, Huang Qi. Even Huang Qi was a little surprised by this speed of improvement. Of course, after Huang Qi saw the two's desperate cultivation method, he also understood. Even he could not help but admire Qin Hao, who was only 13 years old. I will enter the top 10. Helian Wuzi said coldly. Me too. Mouyui also said. Let's go. Huang Qi waved his hand, and two boundless mental energy enveloped Helian Wuzi and Mouyui. The three figures immediately soared into the sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After flying for a few miles, Huang Qi turned his head and stared at the place where he originally stood. He muttered, "This damned place is full of strangeness. I keep feeling that someone is watching." Not long after Huang Qi and the others left, two figures strangely appeared at the place where the entrance of the remnant appeared. We can basically be sure that young Miss is in this remnant. One of them said. Senior, I don't think so. What do you mean? With young Miss's talent and comprehension, how could this kind of low-level remnant take 2 months? Moreover, young Miss is already a 9th stage martial saint, a super genius who is only one step away from stepping into the martial god realm. I really don't understand, in this kind of place, what kind of remnant can stump young Miss. What you said makes sense. But don't forget, there are many experts with strange characters in this world. It is not impossible for a high-level remnant to be left in this place. Oh. If young Miss is really in this remnant, then it will be fine. If something unexpected happens, unexpected? Who in this world dares to touch young Miss? Moreover, young Miss sneaked out. Even the sect master doesn't know, so it is even more impossible for the opposing forces to know. With young Miss's cultivation of a 9th stage martial saint, do you think young Miss will encounter danger in this kind of place? Senior is right. However, I still have some doubts. The old man who has been guarding here for 2 months should be able to confirm that one of their disciples has entered the remnant. However, under normal circumstances, the inheritance of a remnant will choose one person. If young Miss enters, there will be 2. How is this possible? That's because you're ignorant. Under normal circumstances, the inheritance of a remnant will indeed be one person. However, that is because it is very difficult to meet 2 people at the same time. The other person who entered the remnant will definitely meet the requirements. As for our young Miss, is there a remnant that does not meet the requirements? It is not a big deal to enter at the same time. Don't worry too much. In the end, the one who obtains the inheritance of the remnant will definitely be young Mississippi. The one who enters is just an ant in front of young Miss. He should not die. With young Miss's temperament, she will definitely bring him out. Then we will just wait here. Of course. We are not the only ones who came out to look for young Mississippi. Anyway, we have already received the approval of the sect master. We don't need to participate in the year-end test to obtain the benefits of a 2nd stage disciple. This is a good thing. If we can bring young Miss back, the reward will be even higher, haha. The 2 looked to be around 30 years old. They were both dressed in green and had a mysterious rune mark on their chests. It seemed to be the symbol of a sect. Although the 2 restrained their aura and looked like ordinary people. However, the light that occasionally flashed in their eyes was as bright as the stars. If Huang Qi saw the symbol on their chests, he would definitely be extremely shocked. Unfortunately, Huang Qi, who was considered an expert in the Zhenyuan kingdom, did not notice the 2 of them staying nearby for 2 months. It was only his subconscious intuition that he felt that someone was watching. 2 months later, light versus darkness. 4 months later, lightning versus rain and snow. 7 months later, day versus night. 10 months passed in a hurry. The 2 of them successfully cultivated the 5th revolution at the same time. Stepping into the 6th revolution, male and female. P.S. Today's monthly votes are only 2 or 3. Have pity on Wushan. Brothers and sisters with monthly votes, please support them. Thank you very much. Wushan will work hard to go to the 3rd update. Please. Chapter 105. 5th Revolution, 10 months, Qinhao's body was filled with a surging and vigorous energy. 10 months of bitter cultivation, especially the 4th layer of lightning, had caused his already strong physical body to feel as if it had been cleansed and reborn. Even if he did not use any origin power or spirit power, Qinhao was confident that he could defeat a rank 7 martial monarch with just the strength of his physical body. His muscles were not majestic. They were streamlined and filled with beauty. However, as long as he used a bit of strength, his muscles would naturally condense into one, condensing all of his strength into a single point. Other than his physical body becoming stronger, Qinhao had also reached rank 9 martial monarch. Intent and martial monarch were both at the peak of rank 9 martial monarch. 5 new meridians appeared in his body. With every breath he took, he could absorb a large amount of spiritual energy. At this moment, if he were to face Xiao Yunfei, a rank 1 martial monarch, Qinhao was 100% confident that he could defeat him. However, even after the 5th revolution, Qinhao was still unable to step into martial monarch. This also made Qinhao understand how difficult it was to break the barrier from martial monarch to martial monarch. After 10 whole months, when Qinhao saw the hazy door of the 6th revolution, male, and the chant of the cultivation method, his heart was burning with anxiety. What did 10 months mean? He had already missed the year-end competition. This was not important. However, what about Helian Wuzi and Mo Yui? The former Qinhao had a cold and emotionless appearance. In his entire life, he did not have a true friend. no one could enter his heart. Perhaps because of the influence of the former him, although the current Qinhao was a brand new Qinhao, a Qinhao with two souls that had truly merged, he still maintained the necessary caution and indifference. Perhaps because of this caution, he especially cherished the people he acknowledged. Helian Wuzi and Moue he was very worried about their current situation, especially the femme fatale Helian Wuzi. Huff, Qinhao let out a long breath. He completely suppressed the anxiety in his heart and instantly regained his calmness. Being anxious was useless. Only by calming his heart and completely immersing himself in his cultivation would he be able to leave the ruins as soon as possible. Slowly looking at the inscription, Qinhao murmured, "Yang alone does not give birth. Man is the spirit of all things. Male yang versus female yang. Illusion and reality, truth and falsehood. With yin and yang, one can perceive life and death, comprehend the sun and moon, and transcend heaven and earth. Solitary yin does not last. Man is the spirit of all living things. As for the male yang, false and real, true and false. Only when there is yang and yin can one comprehend life and death, achieve the same brilliance as the sun and the moon, and transcend heaven and earth." The young girl's clear eyes stared at the inscription in front of her as she murmured. On her beautiful little face, her eyebrows were slightly furrowed. She actually seemed to understand the Heart Sutra of over 1,000 words. In particular, the description of the cultivation scene made her feel extremely strange. False and real, true and false. Qinhao was also frowning in contemplation. He seemed to understand. Could it be that the image materializes so that I can perceive the yin and yang? Thinking of the beautiful and lovable figure, Qinhao's mind shook slightly, but he immediately suppressed it. After making sure that the 1,000-word Heart Sutra was firmly engraved in his mind, Qinhao took a step towards the hazy and illusory door. Following the cultivation steps of the Heart Sutra, Qinhao came to the front of the wall and sat down cross-legged. He slowly extended his palms and placed them on the wall. Activating the 5 strange meridians formed from the first 5 transformations of the 9 revolutions heavenly sun technique, the fiery pure yang energy suddenly surged out like a river. Almost at the same time, the young girl also sat cross-legged in front of the wall and activated her 5 meridians. The icy cold pure yin energy also surged out from the young girl's palms. Kacha 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 kacha. The hard and thick wall made of an unknown material suddenly began to crack rapidly at this moment. The cracks spread like a spider web. Boom! With a loud sound, debris flew everywhere. Almost at the same time, Qinhao and the young girl's eyes shrank at the same time. A very clear touch appeared between their palms. Staring at the incomparably realistic image, both of their hearts trembled, but soon their eyes regained their calmness. Their respective Heart Sutras appeared in their minds at the same time, suppressing the shock in their hearts. The young girl felt the fiery palm. Although she quickly entered the cultivation state with her powerful cultivation talent, the shock in her heart could not be eliminated. It was too real. She really saw the owner of the ruins. Not only did she see it, she also touched it. Her keen sense of smell could even clearly smell the male scent on the other party. Qinhao also relied on his tenacious state of mind to enter the cultivation state in an instant. Like the young girl, although he entered the cultivation state, the shock in his heart was indescribable. The icy cold and soft palms were placed on top of his palms. The faint fragrance of a virgin could be clearly smelled. The incomparably clear pair of eyes, the devastatingly beautiful face, the graceful and exquisite body, was sitting cross-legged in front of him. It was too real, so real that it made Qinhao gasp in amazement. The moment their eyes met, Qinhao could clearly see the shock in the pair of eyes. Pooh! But at the same time, Qinhao originally thought that he was strong enough to slap iron into a pancake. But the moment the image in front of him was immersed in cultivation, an icy cold pure yin energy quickly submerged his body like a flash flood. At this moment, Qinhao felt that he was so weak that he could not withstand a single blow. Before he could react, his internal organs were shaken to the point of rupturing. With a sweet taste in his throat, a mouthful of essence blood was directly sprayed onto the young girl's flawless face. Ah! Feeling the change, the young girl suddenly screamed. Out of a natural reaction, an incomparably powerful energy shield suddenly gushed out from her body. Bang! Chen Hao, who was already seriously injured in an instant, flew out like a kite with a broken string under the fluctuation of the young girl's energy without any suspense. He heavily hit the wall behind him. The moment Chen Hao lost consciousness, his eyes stared at the young girl who seemed to be extremely shocked and at a loss. If the owner of the ruins was present, he would definitely vomit blood in anger. The perfect inheritance they had set up could be said to have no weaknesses. They even believed that as long as the man and woman who passed the restriction test entered the ruins, it could be said that they would be able to obtain their inheritance with 100% certainty. Comprehending the mysteries of yin and yang and transcending the restrictions of heaven and earth. However, he had not expected that Chen Hao would be a fake among the two people he had chosen. Comprehending the energy of the 5 elements and operating the 5 elements was one of the conditions. Judging the age from the breath of life was the second condition. These 2 conditions were enough to confirm that the selected person was absolutely a true genius. The young girl did completely meet the conditions, but Chen Hao, his age did meet the conditions. Comprehending the energy of the 5 elements and operating the 5 elements also met the conditions. But this guy only had this ability because he had obtained the 5 elements spiritual root. He was not a real martial sage. A small martial emperor and a martial sage fused their energy to comprehend yin and yang. What kind of concept was that? Martial emperor, martial great master, martial sage. Across a few streets, the gap was really too big. This directly caused Chen Hao to vomit blood and be seriously injured, and he was sent flying by the young girl. Hey! The young girl looked at the unconscious Chen Hao whose breath of life was extremely weak. Her small face turned pale, and her mind was in a mess. She really did not understand. Wasn't this an image? Wasn't this the owner of the ruins? The incantation clearly said that as long as she fused with the pure yang energy of the image, she would be able to comprehend the existence of yang and yin. Then she would be able to break through the 6th transformation and comprehend life and death. But now, the bloodstains that were shaken off by her energy were clearly visible. The owner of the ruins, that she had looked at for 10 whole months and was extremely familiar with, was really in front of her eyes. Even when she was no longer operating the 9 revolutions Earth Yin incantation, he was still in front of her eyes. Was this still an illusion? Was it still an image? Hey, you, are you hurt? Wake up. You didn't do it on purpose. The young girl had never hurt anyone. It was simply inconceivable that she could have this kind of cultivation that Chen Hao completely defied the natural order. There were no cruel hunts, no life and death trials, and she had not really experienced many battles. Only during the great sect competition would she act. She had completely relied on her astonishing talent and comprehension. Oh no, his breathing and heartbeat have stopped. His internal organs have all been shattered. The young girl said in panic. After a slight pause, the young girl's body suddenly flashed with a bright green light. She lifted the unconscious Chen Hao from the air and sat cross-legged. Chen Hao seemed to come alive. Under the control of the young girl, he also sat cross-legged with his back facing the young girl. The young girl's crystal-clear and tender palms suddenly pressed against Chen Hao's life gate. Threads of pure green energy, emitting a majestic light of life, quickly merged into Chen Hao's heavily injured body. What made the young girl slightly surprised was that Chen Hao, whose internal organs were clearly shattered, was actually slowly repairing himself. The broken cells seemed to be reorganizing. Immortal bloodline? The young girl said in surprise. Immediately, a happy smile appeared on her beautiful little face. She murmured, "You won't die. Don't be afraid, Yu will help you heal." "I'm sorry. Yu is so stupid. Don't you have the Nirvana pill?" The young girl said to herself. Until she felt that Chen Hao would not die, the panicked young girl recovered her reason. The amethyst jade marrow bracelet on her wrist suddenly flashed with a purple light. A milky white jade bottle floated in front of her and opened by itself. A fiery red pill floated out. In an instant, a strange medicinal fragrance filled the entire space and slowly floated to Chenhao's mouth. The unconscious Chenhao, under the control of the young girl's mysterious energy, suddenly opened his mouth. The jujube-sized pill suddenly entered his mouth. Hee. At this time, the young girl still did not stop instilling energy. Instead, she was afraid that Chenhao would be in too much pain, so she directly began to use the medicinal efficacy of the nirvana pill. If the young girl's father and grandfather were to know of this, they would be so angry that their mustaches would curl up. That was the nirvana pill that could regenerate the flesh and bones of the dead. Even if Chenhao's internal organs were turned into a pile of meat paste, as long as his soul did not dissipate, he would be able to recover in a few minutes and be as lively as before. This was something that they were not willing to use unless they were in the most dangerous situation. But the young girl was so stupid that she did not understand the value of the nirvana pill. She wasted the precious pill that her grandfather gave her just in case on Chenhao. Third update. Begging for monthly votes and subscriptions. Thank you. Chapter 106. Cough cough, I've been raped. I'm tearing my heart and begging for monthly votes, monthly votes. Please everyone. Wushan crawls away and writes, trying hard to update. Brothers and sisters, please give Wushan a hand and explode back. Please. It's very sad to be exploded, hiss hiss hiss. As soon as the pill entered his mouth, it was stimulated by the girl's pure energy, and the medicinal efficacy immediately spread out. In an instant, Chenhao's body began to glow with a fiery light, as if his entire body was immersed in flames. A phoenix had been reborn from the ashes. Chenhao, who seemed to be unconscious, was actually very clear. He had experienced this kind of near-death situation countless times in the mysterious yellow treasure house, but it had never been man-made like this time, and it was even an unintentional act. He saw the shock and panic in the girl's eyes, heard the girl's nervous words, felt the girl's pure and majestic would attribute energy, and was forced to swallow the nirvana pill the girl spoke of. Chenhao clearly felt a fiery medicinal power, causing his seriously injured body to recover at a speed that was thousands of times faster than his own recovery. In an instant, in less than 2 minutes, Chenhao's shattered internal organs were completely healed, but Chenhao did not open his eyes, because the girl was still, crazily, instilling energy into him, and stimulating the little amount of nirvana pill in his body. Power. Chenhao felt a surge of power, like a river bursting through a dam, crazily pouring into his dantian. Your injuries have healed, but the nirvana pill's energy is still a lot. You should quickly refine it, otherwise it will be wasted. Yu will help you. The girl's heavenly voice had already lost its tension, but when Chenhao heard it, he was immediately shocked. The energy pouring into his dantian was about to make him explode, and the girl still wanted to help him? Motherfucker, Chenhao could not describe his feelings at this moment. He really did not expect that there would be a day when he would encounter a great kindness, where he would not even have the chance to refuse. Hiss hiss hiss, as soon as the girl finished speaking, the incomparably pure medicinal power crazily rolled into Chenhao's dantian. Boom, Chenhao, who was already using all his strength to activate the secret to long life, was incomparably terrified. However, after the boundless energy surged in, his dantian felt as if it was about to explode. But in the end, it did not explode. Even the slightest bit of damage was repaired by the medicinal power. What a powerful elixir! Nirvana elixir, nirvana rebirth? Chenhao could not help but think. Soon after, knowing that his life was not in danger, Chenhao immediately threw away all the distracting thoughts in his mind and immersed himself in cultivation. His cultivation is so low. Why is he only a rank 9 martial monarch? This ruin is a place where one can comprehend yin and yang and reach the peak of the martial god realm. That's not right, could it be that he also entered the ruin like Yu? The girl thought to herself as she sensed the condition of Chenhao's body. Gradually, a mischievous smile appeared on Qing Cheng's face. She muttered, "It must be. The owner of this ruin is really interesting. He even tricked you. It's just that he's clearly a martial emperor, but his body has the 5 elements circulating within it. He even has the undying bloodline. How strange." Time passed by minute by minute. Chen Hao was immersed in cultivation. He was crazily refining the vigorous energy that seemed to be able to make him explode at any time. The yuan qi in his dantian became increasingly vigorous and surging. It seemed as if it had reached the limit of the emperor-level dantian's endurance. Chen Hao had never been able to comprehend the emperor-level barrier. But, he was now able to clearly touch it under the impact of the vigorous energy. A trace of understanding gradually appeared in Chen Hao's heart. Moreover, as time passed, it became clearer and clearer. Rumble. 6 hours later, an explosion sounded in Chen Hao's mind and dantian at the same time. Chen Hao clearly felt that the 2 barriers of martial intent, which had been inexplicably linked for a long time, were finally broken at the same time. Hiss hiss hiss. In an instant, Chen Hao's refining speed increased by more than 10 times. A brand new domain appeared in front of Chen Hao's eyes, causing Chen Hao's mind to tremble. Even he did not expect that after becoming a martial emperor, his strength would increase by so much. At this time, Chen Hao could not help but look down on his inflated self-confidence when he was a martial emperor. A frog in a well peeking at the sky, a river god looking at the sea. Realm. Only by truly reaching the corresponding realm would one be able to understand the true strength of that realm. Chen Hao indeed possessed the strength to challenge those of a higher rank and even higher rank. However, that was before the martial emperor level. The martial emperor level was a completely different level. If he was only a rank 9 martial emperor, no matter how strong his physical body was, he would not be able to contend against Zhao Yunfei, who was a martial emperor. On top of that, he was also a rank 9 martial emperor. The fusion of the 2 energies would at most be able to contend against Zhao Yunfei, who was a rank 1 martial emperor. However, if he wanted to defeat him, it would not be as simple as he had originally thought. Sensing Chen Hao's breakthrough, the young girl's incomparably clear eyes immediately revealed a trace of astonishment. She was not astonished that Chen Hao was able to become a martial emperor. Instead, she was astonished by the dense energy that was suddenly emitted from Chen Hao's forehead. It was clearly the aura of becoming a martial emperor. Furthermore, you have a physique that cultivates both martial and mental energy. No wonder your barrier was so hard to break through. Alright, I've finished refining the Nirvana pellet. Yu won't bother with you anymore. The young girl slowly withdrew her lily-white hands that were pressing against Chen Hao's vitals. Without any movement, her body seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Soon after, she appeared in front of Chen Hao and sat cross-legged. With her clear and beautiful eyes, she looked at Chen Hao, who was still immersed in his cultivation. She shook her little head and looked left and right. She had an appearance of curiosity. He clearly looks smaller than Yu. Why does it feel like he's bigger than Yu? Especially when he opens his eyes. The young girl held her cheeks as she thought in her heart. Right at this time, Chen Hao let out a long breath and slowly opened his eyes. The moment Chen Hao opened his eyes, he saw the young girl in front of him. She had a flawless white jade-like face, clear and pure eyes, and a faint fragrance like orchids. This caused Chen Hao's heart that was as firm as a rock to thump. He stared at the young girl in a daze and became infatuated. The young girl looked straight at Chen Hao and revealed a charming smile. With a heavenly voice, she said, "My name is Xia Yu. What about you?" Chen Hao. How old are you? Yu is 16 years old. Isn't she older than you? The young girl's clear eyes turned into crescent moons, containing a trace of complacency as she innocently said. Chen Hao took a deep breath, avoided that devastatingly beautiful face, and said in a deep voice, 17. You're lying, no. Chen Hao firmly said. Whether it was Chen Hao or this young girl called Xia Yuyu, although it was the first time the two of them talked, there seemed to be no barrier between them. It was as if they had known each other for a very long time. After all, the two of them had been together with each other's image for 10 whole months. Moreover, the inheritance of this remnant was originally left behind by a pair of Tao companions. The two of them cultivated the 9 revolution heavenly yang earthly yin technique, which contained countless subtle connections. No way. Grandpa said that liars have flickering eyes. You don't dare to look at Yuyu, so you must be lying. Moreover, your life aura is clearly at most 15 years old. Yuyu has checked your body, so you should be 14 years old. However, you have the undying bloodline, so there might be some abnormalities. You can even see this. Chen Hao said in surprise. Of course. When you reach the peak of 9th grade martial saint, you'll also be able to see it. He. Admit it, right? Call me big sister. The young girl's mouth slightly rose as she said proudly. Cough cough. You're saying that you're already, the peak of 9th grade martial saint? Although Chen Hao had already felt that the young girl's cultivation surpassed his by a lot, when the young girl really said it, he already felt an incomparable pain and disbelief. What kind of concept was 9th grade martial saint? How old was she? A 16-year-old 9th grade martial saint. Old man Xiao was already very old, but he was only a rank 7 martial emperor. Although it was because he did not have the last 9 layers of the longevity technique, he was greatly restricted. However, the disparity was simply too great. With the martial ancestor realm between them, there was an entire 19 levels of difference. Furthermore, this was not the 19 levels below the martial emperor level. The difference of a single level was the difference between heaven and earth, much less 19 levels. Not to mention old man Xiao, what about Huangqi? What about the so-called experts of the new show hall? You don't believe me? The young girl said. I do. What's the undying bloodline? Chen Hao asked. You don't even know this? Hearing Chen Hao's words, Xia Yuyu seemed to be a bit astonished. I know very little. Chen Hao was already certain that the young girl before him was definitely not an ordinary person. Although he felt a bit embarrassed, he still said it. Oh, the undying bloodline is a kind of physique. Some are innate, some are cultivated. You are clearly innate. If you learn the undying divine king's undying golden body technique, your body will become even stronger. At the highest level, your body will become indestructible. Who's the undying divine king? This. You don't know. Xia Yuyu frowned. I don't know. If I'm not wrong. You shouldn't belong here. We should be people of 2 different levels. Chen Hao said with a slight frown. Right. Yuyu forgot. I'm sorry, your cultivation base is so low. You should be a disciple of one of these dynasties, right? Yes. Who are you? Who? What I mean is, where are you from? Oh, Yuyu is a disciple of the Ling Tian sect. The two of them talked for a full 4 hours. One was thirsty for knowledge while the other was naive and did not know how to hold back. This allowed Chen Hao to learn about a higher-level world from Xia Yuyu's mouth. It also allowed Chen Hao to clearly understand his direction and goal. Dynasties, which were also kingdoms and empires, were the lowest level of the cultivation world. The boundless land was vast and boundless. There were tens of thousands of sects and supersections. Only these true sects could be called true cultivators. According to Xia Yuyu, her innate talent and cultivation base could be considered outstanding in the eastern continent. But in the boundless land, it was hard to say, and these sects that were above the dynasties were inextricably linked to the dynasties. The 8 Nations New Talent Ranking, 100 Empire Ranking, Dragon Transformation Ranking, each level was higher than the last. This was the only way for sects to select disciples from the dynasties. After the two of them chatted freely, they, who were in a hurry to leave the ruin, once again began to cultivate the 9-revolution heaven-yang earth-yin technique. This time, Xia Yuyu sealed her own strength to be at the same level as Qin Hao's. When their palms touched, they sensed and comprehended each other's energy. Although Qin Hao's pure yang energy was too weak in comparison to Xia Yuyu's, it was fortunate that she only wanted to comprehend the existence of yang within yin. As for Qin Hao's pure yang energy, other than being weak, it didn't have any flaws and was extremely pure. First update. Requesting monthly votes. Dark Mountain is going all out. Please support next month's monthly votes. Thank you. Calm to vote. Chapter 107. Dear friends, take pity on Wushan. He's been fighting for nearly 16 hours a day. Those with monthly votes, please vote for Wushan. Wushan will continue to climb and fight. Wushan is working hard. Please. I beg you for monthly votes. Time flies like an arrow, and time flies like a shuttle. In the blink of an eye, Qin Hao and Xia Yuyu had spent 1 year and 5 months in the remnant. The disciples of the 8 Great Kingdoms Royal New Show Hall had stopped all their training. The biennial new talent ranking competition of the 8 Great Kingdoms had entered a state of intense preparation. Amazing, truly amazing. Did you hear? The 9th-ranked Moue obtained the inheritance of the 10,000 Swords ancient city and became a true swordsman. I already knew. Not only did he become a swordsman, but he also became the 3rd expert in our Cold Moon Hall to advance to the Martial Emperor level after Dongfang Jun and Helian Wuzi. That's a sword emperor. Motherfucker, truly enviable. With such strength, he can definitely challenge those of a higher level. He's qualified to participate in the new talent ranking competition of the 8 Great Kingdoms. That's right. I reckon he'll be able to obtain a pretty good ranking in the new talent ranking competition of the 8 Great Kingdoms. That Helian Wuzi is even more amazing. 2 months ago, she obtained the inheritance of the ancient city of drifting snow. Her battle power is extremely high. Among the new disciples of our new show hall, she's likely second only to Dongfang Jun. That's not necessarily true. You probably still don't know that Zhao Yunfei, who disappeared for over a year, has returned, right? Ah. The Fierce Sun Hall has sent out news that Zhao Yunfei has already become a rank 4 martial emperor. It said that when he returned, his entire body was emitting a strong killing intent. Just that killing intent alone is enough to make people feel fear. I truly don't know how many cruel killings he has experienced to have that kind of aura. Among the new disciples, he's still the #1 expert. Sigh, back then, we were also first-rate geniuses in our respective provinces, but compared to others. The youngster who spoke shook his head. A trace of bitterness appeared on the corner of his mouth as he said, Helian Wuzi and Moue are the same as us. Their backgrounds are even worse. They came from a small county. However, their luck, opportunity, talent. Oh, that's right. There's also Qin Hao from back then. We still don't know how he is. It's already been over a year since he obtained the remnant and has yet to come out. If he's able to come out, to what extent? I really suspect that the small county town is a blessed place. In the Royal New Show Hall, discussions like this were the topic of conversation for almost all the junior disciples. After more than a year, after the year-end competition and a series of group training, these new disciples had become junior disciples of 2 years of age. Fang Qing and the others had also become intermediate disciples. They had become familiar with each other, and their social circles and cliques had undergone subtle changes. Some of the true geniuses who didn't reveal their talents had also become brilliant new stars. Among these people, Helian Wuzi and Moue were the leaders. This was something that no one had expected. It was also something that no one could believe. The small Yunzhou county was now famous throughout the Royal New Show Hall and the Zhenyuan Kingdom. Although Qin Hao did not come out of the ruins, there was no conclusion for the time being. However, Helian Wuzi and Mo Yui had also obtained the inheritance of the relics in the training arranged by the Royal New Show Hall. This was something that only happened once in 10 years, however, it had happened. Moreover, it had happened to 3 disciples in the same county. In the last month of preparation for the 8 Nations New Talent Ranking Competition, the New Show Hall of the 8 Nations was very lively. The Royal New Show Hall of the Jinyuan Kingdom would gather in the core martial arts arena every day. The New Show Hall's instructors and experts would be the main fighters. Any disciple who was qualified to participate in the 8 Nations New Talent Ranking Competition could challenge on the stage. The instructors would simulate the unique skills that the disciples of each nation were good at and spar with these disciples. The 8 Nations New Talent Ranking Competition was divided into 3 groups, the Junior Group, the Intermediate Group, and the Advanced Group. The Junior Group required one to be under 18 years old and at least a first stage Overlord level cultivation. The Intermediate Group required one to be under 20 years old and at least a third stage Overlord level cultivation. The Advanced Group required one to be under 24 years old and at least a fourth stage Overlord level cultivation. The 3 levels were only the registration restrictions. The real New Talent Ranking Competition was a completely unified ranking battle. However, smart people could see that the registration requirements were completely prepared for the true genius disciples. For example, many of the intermediate disciples in the Royal New Show Hall had advanced to Overlord level, but their ages were basically over 20 years old. In other words, they had to register for the Advanced Group, but their cultivation did not reach the 4th stage Overlord level requirement. Thus, they lost the right to register. In short, one had to be young and have a high cultivation to meet the registration requirements. Therefore, the New Talent Ranking Competition was specially prepared for the true genius disciples. Being able to qualify for the New Talent Ranking Competition was an unparalleled honor. Being able to get a good ranking would undoubtedly shake the 8 great empires. In the Royal New Show Hall, the 1-month special arena competition began. Almost 100% of the disciples would watch and learn. While it was bustling with noise and excitement, in the ruins, Qin Hao and Xia Yuyu had finally comprehended the man and woman, life and death, sun and moon, and entered the last level, heaven and earth. In these sealed ruins, there was no third person. For close to a year and a half, Qin Hao and Xia Yuyu, this powerful yet pure and beautiful girl, had been together day and night. Their interactions were extremely harmonious, especially after they had started to comprehend the man and woman realm together. Because of this special technique, the 2 people's minds seemed to have formed an extremely subtle connection. Although they had not reached the highest level of telepathy, their telepathy was very clear. With just a glance, they could roughly know what the other was thinking. The pure Xia Yuyu did not have any problems, but ever since the man and woman realm started, Qin Hao had already discovered that the 9 revolutions heaven-yang earth-yin art had a feeling similar to the joyful Zen, dual cultivation and other techniques. This made him very worried from the bottom of his heart. He was worried about himself, and also worried about Xia Yuyu. After more than a year, he was only 15 years old. In the end, he was still too young. As for Xia Yuyu's clear and pure gaze, as well as her incomparably pure personality. If the next few revolutions really had to be completed through sexual intercourse, what would he do? Even if Qin Hao was very happy in the depths of his heart, the impact on the pure Xia Yuyu would be too great. Moreover, Qin Hao was now completely clear of Xia Yuyu's identity. If he really did that kind of thing with Xia Yuyu, he would most likely die without a burial ground. Although Qin Hao did not want to admit it, at this moment, the difference between him and Xia Yuyu was like heaven and earth. What was worth rejoicing over was that until the last revolution of the heaven and earth realm, this technique was based on passion and propriety. Although it was charming and gentle, it abided by the rules. Sitting cross-legged, Qin Hao and Xia Yuyu's palms touched as they floated in a dusky space. Qin Hao's body flickered with resplendent white light, like a scorching sun. As for Xia Yuyu's figure, it was shrouded in a pitch-black light. One white, one black. It was as if they wanted to devour each other's light, forming a black and white belt of light between the two of them. entangling endlessly. The two of them seemed as if they could stick together at any moment, but every time their lips touched, they would struggle with all their might, crazily urging their energy to gradually separate. But because of the black and white belt of light between the two of them, they were unable to truly separate. Especially when their hands were clasped together, it was as if they had been refined into one. Heaven yang, earth yin, yang qi rises, yin qi sinks, dividing heaven and earth. This is called the 9 revolutions pure yang, 9 revolutions pure yin. Their minds were clear as the incantation for the 9th revolution of the heaven and earth realm resounded, making the final push. As long as the two of them had yang within their yin and yin within their yang, they would be able to merge and separate as they pleased. The 9 revolutions heaven yang earth yin art would reach large success. That would also be the moment the two of them walked out of the ruins. Outside the ruins, an imposing and refined middle-aged man was clearly sitting cross-legged, but no one would be able to sense his aura when they passed by. Even if they were right in front of them, they would not be able to see him. This middle-aged man seemed to have merged with heaven and earth, becoming one with heaven and earth, ethereal and illusory. The middle-aged man held something that looked like a mirror in his hand. The back of the mirror was covered with complicated runes, emitting an ancient aura. He held the mirror in his left hand and formed a sword with his right hand. He pointed at the mirror, and it was as if a beam of light was poured into it. The middle-aged man looked at the mirror with bright eyes. Then, the misty white surface of the mirror dispersed like clouds, and an image appeared in front of the middle-aged man's eyes. It caused the middle-aged man's refined and handsome face to become extremely embarrassed. It was as if even the black beard that he had deliberately grown was trembling. Humph. My daughter is God's favored daughter, Father's most beloved granddaughter, the top genius of the Ling Tian sect. A mere kingdom's disciple actually. The bastard owner of this ruins is simply unreasonable. If Yu Yu's state of mind is disturbed, I'll make sure you die a graveless death. No, I can't let this brat go just like that. Yu Yu isn't even 17 years old this year. If she develops feelings for this brat, the consequences will be unimaginable. The image in the mirror was actually Chen Hao and Xia Yu Yu who were comprehending the last level of the ruins. Moreover, it just so happened that the two of them were pulled together by the yin and yang energy and were almost kissing each other. How could the middle-aged man not be angry? He had long since suggested to the sect master, who was his father and Xia Yu Yu's grandfather, to destroy this remnant and save Xia Yu Yu. However, the sect master had not agreed, saying that this was Xia Yu Yu's opportunity and luck. He would not destroy it until the last step. Otherwise, it would cut off all of Xia Yu Yu's fortune and fortune in the future. The so-called last step was, of course, the kind of thing between a man and a woman. Similarly, when he said that he would tear that brat, who was Chen Hao, into pieces after they came out of the ruins, the sect leader did not agree either. He said that since he could enter the ruins at the same time as Yu Yu, it was also their fate. He could not kill him, otherwise, it would become a knot in Yu Yu's heart, and the impact would be even greater. No, he must die. Yu Yu obviously has feelings for this brat. How can this brat be worthy of Yu Yu? I won't make a move in front of Yu Yu. The middle-aged man's refined face flashed with a trace of ruthlessness as he thought to himself. What? Are you not going to listen to your father? Right at this moment, a ripple suddenly appeared in space, and an old man with the demeanor of a transcendent being actually silently appeared in front of the middle-aged man. The old man seemed to have seen through the middle-aged man's thoughts and said directly, "Father, why are you here again? I didn't intend to let you clean up the mess. Yu Yu, come out quickly." The old man glared at the middle-aged man and said, "P.S. Second update. Pleading for monthly votes, pleading for monthly votes. Dark Mountain will continue to work hard. Third update, please give Dark Mountain some support, please." Chapter 108. Friends who still have monthly tickets, please support Dark Mountain. Thank you very much. This sage-like old man was the sect leader of Ling Tian sect, Xia Lingfeng, Xia Yuyu's grandfather. When Xia Yuyu and Chen Hao had been in the ruins for 8 months, Xia Lingfeng locked onto the ruins and personally came out to investigate. Using his supreme divine ability, he penetrated through the spatial barrier and sent his divine sense into the ruins, confirming Xia Yuyu's location. Then, he used his divine sense to break open a seal and connected to the spirit treasure clear abyss mirror, so that he could check on Xia Yuyu's situation at any time. Xia Yuyu's father, Xia Yutang, then personally stood guard here, waiting for Xia Yuyu to come out. "Father, that brat really can't be left alive. Yuyu is currently in the golden period of cultivation. If her mental state is affected by that brat, it will definitely affect her progress. Furthermore, how revered is our Yuyu's status?" Before he even stepped into the pugilistic world, he had already made a name for himself and attracted the attention of many genius disciples. If we can form a marriage alliance with the genius disciples of the Origin Gate, Heaven's Sword sect, and other super sects in the future, it will definitely be of great help to our Ling Tian sect. This brat's status is lowly, and he has been with Yuyu for more than a year. Although the cultivation method he cultivates is righteous, but if word gets out, it will have a huge impact on Yuyu's future. "Shut up." Hearing Xia Yutang's words, Xia Lingfeng immediately rebuked angrily, "It's not wrong that you know how to maximize benefits. But do you know how these ancient ruins were created? The world of cultivation never lacked fortuitous encounters and luck. Who could ascend to the top purely by relying on one's own natural talent? For a true genius, although one's own talent is important, what's even more important is opportunity and luck. The ancient ruins in the world seem scattered, but they are inextricably linked. Father, I know, you only know one thing, but not the other. That kid was only an emperor-level cultivator, yet he was able to enter the ruins with a saint-level cultivator. How deep was his luck? The genius disciple of the Yuan Gate, Chu Qingtian, the genius disciple of the Sky Sword sect, Wu Ruochen, the genius disciple of the Misty Palace, Gu Xing, and the other disciples with great fortune. Which one of them didn't have great luck and endless fortuitous encounters to have their current achievements? Luck and opportunity were like a cultivator's advancement in cultivation. If you succeeded once, there would be a second time, and it would be stronger and stronger. This brat is only an emperor realm cultivator. So, it's impossible for him to be selected by the ruins. Obviously, he has some kind of lucky chance that neither you nor I know about. Moreover, he has comprehended the attributes of the 5 elements. That's why it's possible. Although he was penniless now, it didn't mean that he would be penniless in the future. Give him a chance, maybe a miracle will happen. Is that possible? Anything is possible. He did start a little late. But don't forget, many of the most talented disciples were recruited from these small kingdoms. Moreover, him being able to enter the ruins at the same time as Yu was a kind of fate in itself. If he killed this kid, it would be equivalent to cutting off Yu's luck. From then on, it would be very difficult for Yu to obtain great opportunities and great luck. That was the most important thing. Therefore, we only need to take Yu away. The final outcome will depend on this kid's performance. This way, the impact on Yu will be minimized. Oh, 3 days later. The sun was high in the sky, and the sky was clear. Gusts of mountain wind blew gently, carrying the aura of the demonic beasts of the Demon Cloud mountain range. At this moment, a dense fluctuation suddenly rippled within a radius of 100 miles, and the surrounding space seemed to fluctuate violently. Immediately, dark clouds gathered in the clear sky at an astonishing speed and rolled down. The demonic beasts within 100 miles immediately let out roars of horror and fled in all directions in terror. A fierce wind blew, and the energy of heaven and earth fluctuated violently, which was 1,000 times more intense than the change a year and a half ago. Boom! With a sudden explosion, a beam of light suddenly rose from a mountain peak and went straight to the sky. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 figures shot out along with the beam of light as fast as lightning. Ha ha ha, ah! A clear and melodious laughter, like the sound of nature, was accompanied by a wild howl that shook the mountain forest. The howl rolled and shook the surroundings, causing the dark clouds in the sky to scatter. However, the faint and melodious laughter of the girl, although very light, was not suppressed by the howl at all. How, your howl at full power can't suppress Yuyu's laughter at 10% power, hee. I'm only a 5th grade spirit realm, and you've already advanced to the divine realm. How can I compare to you? A young man who was tall and straight like a sword, with a delicate and handsome face, and a young girl who was beautiful enough to cause the downfall of a city, flew in the air, hand in hand, and slowly floated down from the top of the light pillar. These two were Qinhao and Xia Yuyu. After a full year and a half, the two finally comprehended the 9 revolutions heavenly yang earthine formula and stepped out of the ruins. A year and a half, we're finally out. The two seemed to have a tacit understanding, and each said half a sentence. Yuyu. At this time, 2 figures, like 2 shooting stars, crossed the distance of dozens of li in an instant and appeared in front of Qinhao and Xia Yuyu. When one of the figures saw Qinhao and Xia Yuyu holding hands, he immediately frowned, and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. He fiercely looked at Qinhao, and a majestic and terrifying pressure pressed down on Qinhao from all directions. At this moment, Qinhao felt his body freeze, and his internal organs were churning. Father, what are you doing? Xia Yuyu was startled, and suddenly opened her arms, blocking in front of Qinhao. Humph. Xia Yutang coldly snorted, and with a serious expression, said without allowing any resistance, Yuyu, come here. Grandfather. Father is bullying Yuyu. Xia Yuyu had never seen her father with such an expression, and immediately looked at the sage-like old man with grievance and said, Yuyu, you secretly escaped from the sect, grandfather can't help you this time. The sage-like Xia Lingfeng also looked at Qinhao, whose face was red, and was obviously hurt by Xia Yutang's aura, and said indifferently. He seemed to have no intention of protecting Xia Yuyu. Still not coming here? Xia Yutang angrily rebuked. You're not allowed to hurt Hao. Xia Yuyu said stubbornly with tears in her eyes. Hearing Xia Yuyu's intimate address, Xia Yutang was even more furious, and wished that he could crush Qinhao to death right now. I told you to come here. Enough. Seeing that Xia Yutang couldn't control himself again, Xia Lingfeng waved his hand and said, Your father won't hurt him, go back with grandfather. Grandfather. Can you let Qinhao go back with us? His talent and comprehension are very high. Although his cultivation is low now, he can already operate the 5 elements and comprehend yin and yang. He will be able to improve very quickly. Xia Yuyu looked back at the cold expression of Qinhao, bit her lips, and turned around to plead. But Xia Lingfeng shook his head and said, Any existence that disturbs your state of mind should disappear from this world. Grandfather can only promise you that I won't kill him. From now on, you two will never see each other again. No. Xia Yuyu suddenly mustered up her courage and said. At this moment, she deeply felt the perilous waves in Qinhao's heart. In particular, Qinhao's expression, which was gradually turning icy cold, filled her with worry. Hiss. Xia Lingfeng lightly waved his hand, and a screen of light suddenly enveloped Xia Yuyu. Immediately, Xia Yuyu, who had comprehended yin and yang and had just stepped into the martial god realm, floated from Qinhao's side to Xia Yutang's side without the slightest bit of resistance. Grandfather. I beg you, kid, listen up. You and Yuyu are not people of the same world. You should already know that we are a great sect that surpasses the dynasty. Yuyu is a blessed daughter of the heavens. You can't come into contact with her, nor can you associate with her, because you are not worthy. Xia Lingfeng stared at Qinhao and said. Grandfather. You. Xia Lingfeng ignored the struggling Xia Yuyu and continued, This is the truth. You might think that old man is heartless, but this is the reality. Let's go. How? Yuyu struggled and shouted, tears gushing out as she looked at Chen Hao. Chen Hao did not say a word, his expression cold. But at this moment, his blood and qi churned, and his mind focused as he activated the 9 revolving heavenly sun art. Boom! The berserk pure yang true yuan suddenly turned into thousands of white rays of light that spread out. Ah! Xia Yuyu, who was imprisoned, also crazily activated the 9 revolving earth yin art at this moment. Although the two of them were separated by dozens of miles in an instant, the heavenly young earth yin art connected their minds. Yuyu, wait for me. One day, I will use my strength to step into the Ling Tian sect, and no one will be able to stop me. Chen Hao's cold voice resounded in Xia Yuyu's mind. Yuyu, wait for you, Hao, humph. Xia Yutang snorted and waved his hand to release a majestic energy that contained terrifying spiritual energy. With a boom, it forcibly cut off the telepathy between the two of them. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the horizon without a trace. Pooh! At this moment, Chen Hao, who relied on his tenacious nerves to support himself, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his expression became colder as he clenched his teeth and clenched his fists. Cracking sounds rang out as blood spurted out from his fingertips and fell into the mountain. Bang! Chen Hao, who fell, violently bombarded the mountain peak with a punch that purely relied on his physical body without any energy. His fist pierced into the hard rock, and with such a violent force, without any energy protection, his fist instantly splashed with blood. Strength. Everything depends on strength. I want to become a powerhouse, a true powerhouse, and no one can trample on my dignity. I could do it in the past, and I can do it now as well. So what if you're at the golden core stage? So what if you're at the nascent soul stage? Chen Hao roared in his heart. He, who was born with a lofty character, felt a great humiliation. He didn't blame Xia Yuyu's father and grandfather, he could only blame himself for being too weak. Tao Scripture Secrets. Wait until I transcend yin and yang and break through to the martial god realm. I want to see who dares to look down on me. For an entire year and a half, Chen Hao understood a level that he had never touched from Xia Yuyu, a girl who was devastatingly beautiful yet pure like a little white flower. Originally, the martial god and will god realm were already legendary existences in his heart, but on Xia Yuyu's level, they were only ordinary existences. Xia Yuyu, who had already stepped into the martial god realm, was only 17 years old. On her level, she was a rare genius, but she wasn't an expert and still needed to grow. Third update. 9,000 plus words. Begging for monthly votes, begging for subscriptions. Many thanks. Chapter 109. This is the first update. Monthly votes, please give a monthly vote to Wushan. It's about to explode. It's urgent. Please, save me, phew. I'm finally out. When Chen Hao calmed down and began to heal his injuries, the treasure-hunting sword spirit, who had been hiding in the depths of his mind for a year and a half, finally let out a long sigh of relief and slowly spread out his perception. His improvement is really fast. At this rate, he should be able to awaken that thing in a few years, right? I have to perform well. This kid is affectionate and righteous. He definitely won't let me live a life worse than death. The treasure-hunting sword spirit trembled when he thought of the time when he was in that thing. Those dark days were worse than death. He didn't want to go in a second time. Whoosh! 4 hours later, a stream of light streaked across the sky. Chen Hao's figure was like lightning as he soared into the sky. The journey that should have taken more than 10 days only took Chen Hao less than half a day. He appeared in the forbidden area of the Royal New Show Hall. After activating the identity token, a wave of fluctuation blended into the drifting clouds. A moment later, a strange wave of fluctuation enveloped Chen Hao. When he reappeared, he was already inside the Royal New Show Hall. When the old man in charge of opening the protective restriction sensed the fluctuation of the restriction, he knew that a disciple had returned. He was about to bring him in, but he didn't expect that the person who came would actually use the identity token to break the restriction. This made the old man think that it was an expert from the Royal New Show Hall. He didn't expect that the person who appeared in front of him was only a teenager who looked to be 15 or 16 years old. "You are?" the old man asked, a little surprised. No matter how hard he racked his brains, he couldn't think of when the Royal New Show Hall had such a young expert. One had to know that the sex protective restriction could only be opened by a person with a cultivation of at least the 3rd stage of the Overlord realm. How could the old man not be surprised? He knew all the disciples in the Royal New Show Hall who had reached the Overlord realm at such a young age. Chen Hao. Chen Hao cupped his fists and said to the old man. "Chen Hao. Are you the Chen Hao who entered the ruins a year and a half ago?" The old man's eyes widened. "Exactly. Amazing. 3rd stage Martial Emperor realm and above. You're really amazing. Quickly go to the core arena. With your cultivation, you're definitely qualified to participate in the 8 Nations Rookie List competition. Maybe you can even win glory for our Jinyuan kingdom. Young and promising. Congratulations. Is the Rookie List of the 8 Nations about to begin?" Chen Hao's expression changed slightly, and his eyes sparkled with a bright light. "Yes, yes. In less than a month's time, we'll be leaving. Now, all the disciples of the Royal New Show Hall are gathered in the core arena for the final special training." "Good. Thank you, Senior." Chen Hao cupped his fists and bowed. With a flash, he disappeared from the old man's sight. Such astonishing speed caused the old man's expression to change again. After being stunned for a few seconds, he came back to his senses and muttered to himself, "That speed. I'm afraid he's reached rank 6 Martial Emperor. Even I, old man, am not that fast." Old, this Chen Hao is not even 15 years old. Evidently, there was no one in the Royal New Show Hall who did not know of Chen Hao's existence. The Royal New Show Hall's core arena. On the incomparably huge stage, Origin power was wreaking havoc, and shattered rocks were swirling in the air. Even more shockingly, even though it was clearly a scorching summer day, the 100-meter-wide stage was actually filled with snow. This caused the entire arena to be enveloped by an ice-cold aura, as if it was winter. "Ha ha ha. Junior sister Xiaowu, you're becoming more and more beautiful, more and more powerful. Not bad at all. This is the inheritance of the ancient city of drifting snow. Merely with this aura, you're qualified to be the number 2 disciple of our Cold Moon Hall. Don't worry, your senior brother, am indebted to the instructor for thinking highly of me, so I'll temporarily be the champion of the beginner group. Naturally, I'll let you fight to your heart's content, and I won't injure you." "Humph." Helian Wuzi frowned. Her expression was ice-cold to begin with. At that moment, her beautiful eyes were filled with ice and snow. With merely her gaze, it was as if she had the ability to turn the life in front of her into an ice sculpture. Without any words, she violently waved her slender jade-like palm. Snow filled the sky. In an instant, the drifting snowflakes, as Helian Wuzi waved her palm, immediately became berserk. Like locusts, they emitted an ice-cold aura. With a buzzing sound, they covered the sky and covered the earth as they attacked Dongfang Jun. She did not show any mercy. In the past 1.5 years, in the days without Chen Hao, Helian Wuzi had been harassed countless times. If Fang Qing had not invited her and Mo Yui to join Fang Qing's small team, and if Huang Qi had not occasionally stepped in to protect them, Helian Wuzi and Mo Yui might not have been able to persevere until now. Helian Wuzi was still fine. After all, Dongfang Jun wanted her, so he would not go so far as to destroy her. However, Mo Yui had suffered heavy injuries several times. Under the huge pressure, she and Mo Yui cultivated even more crazily. Not only did they follow Chen Hao's special training for them, they even went beyond it. Every mission, every experience, they gave it their all, causing themselves to be on the verge of death. Finally, dawn came. She and Moue rose one after another, obtained the powerful inheritance of the relics, and stepped into the emperor level. Only then did Dongfang Jun and the others restrain themselves a little. It's useless. Junior sister Xiaowu, let's fight hand to hand. Ha! Dongfang Jun said indifferently. With a boom, the valiant protective aura around his body blossomed. Purely relying on the protective aura, he forcibly blocked Helian Wuzi's flying snow sky. The snowflakes that contained powerful energy immediately dissipated as if they had encountered a flame. Scarlet flame air splitting palm. Whoosh, the distance of more than 10 feet was crossed in an instant. Dongfang Jun's violent and vigorous blue yuan power actually shone with a bright, flame-like light, like a blue flame with a red flame. In an instant, he and his palm became one, and rushed to within 2 meters of Helian Wuzi. Scarlet flame air splitting fist, level 10 martial technique. Only cultivators who had comprehended the fire attribute could unleash its true power. When the palm struck out, it was like a roaring fire dragon, burning everything. When cultivated to the highest level, one could break through the air and teleport 100 meters. When the palm landed, it had the power to break mountains and shatter mountains. Its power was endless. Due to the restriction of Dongfang Jun's cultivation, although he did not cultivate it to the highest level, the power of his palm strike caused the disciples below the stage to be terrified. At the edge of the stage, Moue, who had a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, was deeply frowning. A trace of worry appeared in his eyes that seemed to contain sharp sword rays. Before Helian Wuzi, he had already fought against Dongfang Jun. Unfortunately, Dongfang Jun's cultivation was 4 entire levels higher than his. Before absolute power, he was simply no match for him. Dongfang Jun had already become a rank 5 martial emperor. Furthermore, he had comprehended the fire attribute's derivative energy. Furthermore, after undergoing the meridian's cleansing and marrow cleansing, Dongfang Jun's body had become incomparably valiant. Even though Moue had obtained the inheritance of the 10,000 swords ancient city's remnant and became a true sword emperor, he was still unable to contend against Dongfang Jun. Even though Helian Wuzi's absolute power surpassed Moue's and she had also become a rank 3 martial emperor, she was still 2 levels below Dongfang Jun. SSSS. Seeing that Dongfang Jun's fist was about to reach her, Helian Wuzi's body suddenly floated down. In an instant, dense fog filled the air. Ha ha ha, you want to dodge? Break for me. When his fist missed, Dongfang Jun laughed heartily. Both of his palms faced the dense fog that filled the sky and suddenly waved. Containing fire attribute origin power, it instantly wreaked havoc in all directions. The fog attribute fog that Helian Wuzi had formed immediately dissipated. This caused Helian Wuzi to frown deeply. Fire and water were incompatible. When the water was strong, the fire would be extinguished. When the fire was strong, the water would evaporate. Before Dongfang Jun's absolute strength, Helian Wuzi was indeed unable to contend against him. Furthermore, Helian Wuzi was mentally unwilling to engage in close combat with Dongfang Jun, this shameless bastard. That was because she could imagine what the shameless Dongfang Jun would do if that were to happen. I've lost. After Helian Wuzi floated far away, she spoke without the slightest hesitation. How could that be? Junior sister Xiaowu, we have yet to properly get intimate. Come, don't worry, your senior brother will definitely not injure you. Shameless. Helian Wuzi's heart was filled with anger. However, she could only endure it. She did not wish for this shameless bastard to take advantage of her. This was not the time for her to risk her life. Although Qinhao had already trained her in the 18 ways to defend against wolves, that was Qinhao. Unless it was a real life and death battle, how could she possibly engage in close combat with Dongfang Jun, who had ulterior motives? Just touching her body would make her feel disgusted. Furthermore, Dongfang Jun's strength indeed exceeded hers. If she could not defend against him, that would be a humiliation. Helian Wuzi scolded coldly and directly jumped off the stage. I'll get intimate with you. Right at this moment, a clear but cold voice suddenly came from the sky. That voice seemed to contain no emotions and appeared strangely. There wasn't even the slightest bit of energy fluctuation. Even the expert instructor on the platform did not detect any fluctuation in the sky. But at this moment, a handsome figure slowly descended from the sky onto the stage. This figure was Chen Hao. When Helian Wuzi stepped onto the stage, he had already arrived. However, he was afraid that he would affect Helian Wuzi's battle, so he restrained his aura and floated in the air. He stared at Helian Wuzi, whom he had not seen for a year and a half, as well as Mo Yui, who was standing below the stage with a slight injury. The aura of the two people and Helian Wuzi's expression when facing Dongfang Jun made Chen Hao feel relieved. In a year and a half, Chen Hao's height had already grown by half a head. His originally delicate and handsome face had become even more distinct, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His complexion was like jade, and his cold expression and indifferent words caused everyone to deeply feel the arrogance that came from his bones. Chen Hao's voice had also changed greatly. It had shed its original immaturity and was even more magnetic. Those who were not familiar with Chen Hao naturally could not tell that this was Chen Hao's voice. However, when Helian Wuzi and Mo Yui heard this voice, their hearts trembled and they suddenly looked towards the sky. Boss! Ah! Before most people could recognize who it was, the cold and taciturn Mo Yui had already cried out excitedly. And Helian Wuzi, who was known as the Ice Beauty, actually trembled and cried out excitedly. Chen Hao! This is Chen Hao! So strong! Even Mo Yui calls him boss. Other than Chen Hao, who else could it be? Did he come out from the remains? Martial Emperor! The crowd suddenly burst into bursts of exclamations. Even the experts among the senior disciples frowned at this moment. Chen Hao didn't release his aura, but it was precisely because his aura was so restrained that even they couldn't sense it, that they were shocked. Even Dongfang Jian, who was originally arrogant in front of Chen Hao, narrowed his eyes. First update. Brothers and sisters, please vote for Dark Mountain with your monthly votes. Today will definitely be the third update. Please. Wu Shan crawls away and writes with all his strength. Whether or not he can defend his chrysanthemum will depend on his brothers and sisters. Please. Chapter 110. Begging for monthly votes, I need them very much, urgently need them. Thank you. It's you. Dongfang Jun looked at Chen Hao, who slowly descended onto the stage. His face no longer had the same expression he had when he faced Helian Wuzi. His gaze was gloomy and his expression was clearly shocked as he stared at Chen Hao. It's me. Chen Hao's eyes were as bright as the stars as they shone with sharpness. I never thought that you would be able to come out alive. Very good. A year and a half ago, you actually dared to injure my people while I was in seclusion trying to break through to Martial Emperor. Humph. Today, I, Dongfang Jun, will make you pay back 100-fold. Don't think that you can be arrogant in front of me just because you obtained the inheritance of the remnants and became a Martial Emperor. Go ahead, aren't your sword techniques very powerful? Today, I, Dongfang Jun, will compete with you in sword techniques. Clang! As Dongfang Jun spoke, he unsheathed his sword and his expression became serious. Although he spoke arrogantly, he did not look down on Chen Hao in the slightest. His sharp intuition allowed him to sense a dangerous aura from Chen Hao. Up to you. Chen Hao said in a deep voice. At the same time, he grabbed at the weapons near the rostrum, and an ordinary sword flew into his hand through the air. It can't be. He doesn't even have his own sword. Chen Hao's actions immediately caused countless disciples below the stage to feel astonished. The instructors on the platform also frowned slightly. Below the stage, Helian Wuzi, Moue, and Fang Qing, who was acquainted with Chen Hao, held their breaths. They never thought that Chen Hao would return at this moment. Even more so, they never thought that Chen Hao would directly step onto the stage and challenge the powerful Dongfang Jun. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the rank 5 martial emperor Dongfang Jun's battle power was comparable to the experts among the advanced disciples. Otherwise, he would not have been allowed to become the master of the stage to train the disciples who had obtained the qualifications for the rookie competition. This caused the three of them to be on edge. Especially Helian Wuzi and Moue. I'm afraid that Chen Hao is in danger. Dongfang Jun hasn't even used a weapon yet, and his strength is already so strong. Moreover, it is said that Dongfang Jun's strongest point is his sword skills, which are unfathomable. That's right. Look at Dongfang Jun's treasured sword. That's second only to a spirit sword. This Chen Hao doesn't even have his own sword. However, this Chen Hao is definitely not simple. Since Dongfang Jun uses a sword, it can be seen that he is very concerned about him. That's true. Dongfang Jun's eyes gradually turned cold. He slowly raised the tip of his sword and pointed it at Chen Hao. His body was as straight as a sword, his fighting spirit rising. His white robes fluttered without any wind. Just this posture alone caused the spectators to feel an enormous pressure. Chen Hao, who was standing 10 feet away, had a cold expression on his face. However, at this moment, he calmly unsheathed his sword. I can feel that you are indeed very strong, even though you have restrained your aura. To be able to make me, Dongfang Jun, draw my sword, is enough for you to be proud. Dongfang Jun stared at Chen Hao and said arrogantly and coldly. Don't blame me for not warning you. Go all out. Chen Hao said with a calm expression. As he spoke, he slowly released the aura that he had restrained. Buzz. Blue-colored origin power immediately poured into the sword, causing the sword in his hand to emit a violent trembling sound. Rank 5 Martial Emperor. Cries of alarm immediately burst forth from the crowd. Dongfang Jun's eyes also abruptly shrunk. His arrogant expression finally turned serious. Amazing, this Chen Hao has actually become a rank 5 martial emperor after being in the remnants for a year and a half. This is going to be lively. The instructors on the platform immediately looked to each other and spoke with a trace of admiration and excitement. Let's begin. Hiss. Dongfang Jun's body moved. Like an unsheathed treasured sword, he charged toward Chen Hao with lightning speed. At the same time, Chen Hao also brandished his sword to meet Dongfang Jun's attack. The distance of over 10 feet was closed by the two of them at the same time. In an instant, they had closed the distance of 2 feet. Hiss. Hiss. Resplendent sword rays were emitted from Dongfang Jun's treasured sword. Although they appeared slow, they were actually very fast. Layers upon layers of sword images appeared. Every single sword ray contained an incomparably sharp power. No one was able to tell whether the sword rays were real or where they were attacking. Unfathomable. When Dongfang Jun attacked, he confirmed the rumors. He was definitely an expert in the path of the sword. This guy does indeed have the qualifications to be arrogant. Chen Hao thought in his heart. Even Moue, who had comprehended sword intent and became a true swordsman, had his eyes abruptly shrunk. Before the nervous gazes of Moue, Helian Wuzi, and the others, Chen Hao finally unleashed his sword at the moment when the sword rays were about to reach him. Buzz! Sword rays gushed out. Simple, berserk, and without any fancy movements. It was as if it could not be compared to Dongfang Jun's sword skill. However, when the sword pierced out, with a ding sound, it hit a vital point and caused all of Dongfang Jun's resplendent and sharp sword images to miss, rumble. The dispersed sword chi was like a bomb that detonated the entire stage. On the hard rock ground, a total of 18 deep and several feet long gullies appeared. Stone fragments swirled in the air and dust billowed. Although Dongfang Jun's sword was broken by Qin Hao, the power of this sword was so shocking that it caused many of the spectating disciples below the stage to suck in a breath of cold air. Sky-splitting sword. Dongfang Jun did not stop in the slightest. With a change of sword stance, it was extremely crafty. As if it was tearing apart the void, the sword pierced out. Its speed was as fast as lightning. Even Qin Hao did not expect the opponent's sword skill to be so fast. At this moment, Qin Hao felt an incomparably sharp sword chi locking onto his wrist that was holding the sword. Without any time to hesitate, Qin Hao's eyes turned sharp. With a flick of his wrist, sword rays instantly exploded. Ding 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 ding, rumble rumble rumble, a series of dense sounds of metal colliding rang out, accompanied by violent explosions of origin energy. The figures of the two of them flew up into the sky, rising up and down. For a moment, they descended onto the arena, and in the next moment, they were in the air. Up and down, they were using speed to overcome speed, causing everyone to be dazzled. They were completely unable to clearly see how many sword strikes the two of them had struck out in an instant. Only the wanton sword light rumbled and rumbled on the arena within a 300 m radius, leaving behind numerous deep ravines. What a fast speed. Is there enough time to react? Too amazing. This Qin Hao's cultivation in the sword Dao is not inferior to Dongfang Jun's. So fast. This is not just fast. The stage is about to be torn apart by the two of them. Dongfang Jun is about to lose, an instructor on the rostrum suddenly said softly as he stared at the two rapidly moving figures. Not necessarily. Although Dongfang Jun has not condensed sword intent, his talent in the sword Dao is second to none in the Dongfang family. Even Dongfang Jun cannot compare to him in this aspect. Moreover, he has not used his ultimate move yet. According to what I know, during the Dongfang family grand competition half a year ago, he had already comprehended the Dongfang family's highest sword skill, the stellar sword technique, to the 13th sword. He has only used the 9th sword now. When he uses the 13th sword, it will be enough to defeat Qin Hao. Not necessarily. Right now, Dongfang Jun has already been suppressed, and I feel that Qin Hao hasn't used his full strength yet. The sword skills he's using are even more bizarre. I've never seen anything like it before. It seems like every move is able to accurately attack Dongfang Jun's flaws. Such exquisite sword skills are truly rare. Boom! Right at this moment, Dongfang Jun suddenly activated his sword, bursting out a terrifying sword light, forcing Qin Hao to take 2 steps back. Dongfang Jun's figure suddenly floated backwards, landing on the ground. His expression was solemn as he stared at Qin Hao. I didn't expect your sword skills to be so strong. However, it's impossible for you to defeat me. Now, I'll let you experience my true strength. You can admit defeat now. Otherwise, don't blame me if I seriously injure or kill you, because I can't control it. This was indeed the case. Although Dongfang Jun could not wait to kill Qin Hao, the two of them were exchanging pointers in the arena. Moreover, Dongfang Jun knew that with Qin Hao's current strength, he would definitely become the focus of the new show hall's training. He would also be one of the main forces in the upcoming rookie list competition of the 8 nations. This was related to the honor and face of the Zhenyuan kingdom. If he killed Qin Hao at this time, then even if he was a disciple of the Dongfang family and a top genius, he would not be able to escape punishment, but now, he had made it clear. If Qin Hao did not know when to back down, then he could not be blamed. Go ahead and attack. Qin Hao said coldly. His fighting spirit surged, and he was not afraid at all. Wait. Just as Dongfang Jun took a step forward and an incomparably sharp aura erupted from his body, a dignified voice suddenly drifted over. Before the voice arrived, the person had already appeared between Qin Hao and Dongfang Jun. The rookie list competition of the 8 nations is about to begin. Both of your strengths are worth looking forward to. Now is not the time to fight with your lives on the line. The person who came emitted a valiant aura that directly enveloped Dongfang Jun and Qin Hao. He said in a dignified voice, if you want to compete, then do it during the rookie list competition. The rankings decide everything. That's all for today. Chen Hao, you will be the main challenger for the advanced group tomorrow. How about it? Hua, the old man's words instantly caused an uproar. This old man was none other than precisely the new show hall's #1 expert, the new show hall's hall master. With the powerful combat strength that Dongfang Jun displayed, he was only the main challenger for the elementary group. But now, the hall master actually let Chen Hao be the main challenger for the advanced group. Could it be that Chen Hao was even stronger than Dongfang Jun? Even Chen Hao was slightly stunned when he heard the hall master's words. Of course, the 3 hall's chief disciples are not allowed to participate. With your realm and combat strength, it should be enough to the other disciples. Similarly, it's also a very good tempering opportunity for you. Dongfang Jun, you'll be the main challenger for the intermediate group tomorrow. The 3 hall's chief disciples can all participate. Zhao Yunfei, you'll be the main challenger for the elementary group. Remember, you can't be seriously injured. There are still 6 days' time before we set off. Tempering is fine, but it cannot affect the rookie list competition. All of you are very strong this year. Old man is very much looking forward to your performance in the rookie competition. A soul-stirring battle was forcefully resolved by the hall master just like that. Dongfang Jun was naturally extremely frustrated, especially when Chen Hao was the main challenger for the advanced group. Although he did not let the chief disciples go on stage, it still made him feel ashamed. But there was no other way. No matter how arrogant he was, he did not dare to go against the hall master. And Chen Hao was also extremely frustrated. Dongfang Jun's powerful combat strength was undoubtedly a good tempering when he did not use his mental strength. He was also very much looking forward to what Dongfang Jun's ultimate move was. But he could not see it for the time being. However, being able to be the main challenger for the advanced group tomorrow made him feel slightly comforted. Second update. Requesting monthly votes for support. Many thanks. Dark Mountain will continue to write the 3rd chapter. Please, if you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Chapter 111. Begging for monthly votes, begging for subscriptions. I'm sincerely kneeling, I really need, please, my dearest. Seeing Chen Hao slowly walking over, Mouyui's entire body trembled. He was indescribably excited. Helian Wuzi's beautiful eyes stared blankly at the unfamiliar yet familiar Chen Hao. Her heart trembled slightly. She, who was in the prime of her youth, had an ice-cold and emotionless appearance. She was like an iceberg that kept people 1,000 miles away. However, this change only happened after Chen Hao molested her. In the past, after she was humiliated by Chen Hao, she had indeed always wanted to ruthlessly step on Chen Hao under her feet. She wanted to use Chen Hao to publicly humiliate her. However, fate had mysteriously brought the two of them to the same battle line. As their interactions increased, a subtle change occurred in her mentality. Especially since Chen Hao did not seem to treat her as a woman at all. He even specially trained her in certain aspects. However, the more he did so, the less hatred she had in her heart. Boss, you've finally returned. Mouyui said emotionally. Helian Wuzi only stared at Chen Hao. A rarely seen faint blush appeared on her ice-cold and beautiful little face. Congratulations, junior brother. I truly did not expect that in a year and a half's time, you would actually advance to such a level. Right now, you're even more powerful than me. Feng Qing, who was with the two of them, said in a natural and unrestrained manner. I was just lucky. Senior's aura, you must have already advanced to the Intent Emperor realm, right? The battle power of the Intent Emperor realm is very strong. No matter how strong they can't be stronger than you, a rank 5 martial emperor. Let's go, we'll talk as we walk. Feng Qing said with a smile. Chen Hao, who had just returned, did not know that in the past year or so, Helian Wuzi and Mo Yui had been in Fang Qing's little team. Thus, when he heard Fang Qing's words, he looked at Helian Wuzi and Mo Yui with slight confusion. In this period of time, it was all thanks to Uncle Huang and Senior Fang Qing's care. Otherwise, little Mo and I. Helian Wuzi said. There's no need to talk about taking care of you. You're Grandpa's personal disciples. This is what a senior sister should do. Fang Qing said with a smile. Then, she looked at Chen Hao and said in a low voice, Junior brother, the Dongfang family has become lawless because of the appearance of a peerless master. Even the royal family can't do anything about it, so, you should restrain yourself for the time being. You can't be too ruthless when dealing with Dongfang Jun and the others. With Junior brother's current cultivation and combat strength, you will definitely obtain a rather good ranking in the rookie ranking competition. In another 2 years, you might even obtain the qualifications to participate in the 100 Empire ranking competition. As long as you appear on the 100 Empire ranking competition, you will have the chance to become a supreme existence. At that time, no matter how arrogant Dongfang Jun is, he will not dare to snatch little Wu from you. Cough cough, Chen Hao was originally listening attentively. Although he knew about the rookie ranking, 100 Empire ranking, and dragon transformation ranking from Xia Yuyu, he only knew that he had to go through layers upon layers of competition before he could enter the world of true experts. But Xia Yuyu didn't know the specific situation and didn't care much about it. So when Fang Qing mentioned it, he was rather interested. But when she said, I don't dare to snatch little Wu from you, Chen Hao immediately coughed awkwardly. Helian Wuzi's face was completely red. She opened her mouth to speak but didn't know what to say. Mo Yui had a calm expression, as if what Fang Qing said was the truth. Chen Hao was too lazy to explain. This kind of thing would only make things worse. He directly changed the topic and said, Senior sister, in the rookie ranking competition of the 8 countries, what rank do you need to obtain to be qualified to participate in the 100 Empire ranking competition? The qualifications for the 100 Empire ranking competition is more complicated. The rookie ranking competition of the 8 countries is not the real rookie ranking competition. There's still true and false. N. The 8 countries that hold the rookie ranking competition of the 8 countries are all vassal states of the Xuanwu Empire. If you can obtain the top 10 of the rookie ranking competition of the 8 countries, you will be qualified to participate in the Xuanwu Empire's rookie ranking competition. Among the many geniuses of the Xuanwu Empire, if you obtain the top 5, you will be qualified to participate in the 100 Empire ranking competition. You are only 15 years old and still have a few years. You definitely have a chance. Xiao Wu, Xiao Mo, and I all have a chance, but we will definitely be 2 years later than you. A short period of 10 days passed by quickly. After Chen Hao was in the main arena for a day, he did not participate in the so-called arena training anymore. This was because all the disciples who obtained the qualifications to participate in the competition would be given special permission to choose the most suitable technique for them in the unique art library according to their cultivation level. Chen Hao originally came back late. There were only 10 days left. If he wanted to comprehend a technique, even if he was extremely talented, it was difficult to do so. However, what surprised Chen Hao was that the hall master of the Royal New Show Hall actually directly removed the restriction on the secret technique manual that Chen Hao had chosen. This allowed Chen Hao to see all the mantras before he comprehended them. Chen Hao directly went into seclusion for more than 10 days. On this day, the sun was shining brightly. Among the nearly 2,000 disciples of the Royal New Show Hall, there were only 35 outstanding disciples who had obtained the qualifications to participate in the rookie list of the 8 countries. 35 people, including the hall master, 2 deputy hall masters, the gatekeeper Uncle Huang Qi, and an enchanting figure that surprised Chen Hao, embarked on the journey to the rookie list of the 8 countries. Whoosh! All the disciples of the Emperor realm rose into the air and set off for the powerful Tortoise Empire. Sister Fian, why are you here? After flying into the air, the enchanting figure that surprised Chen Hao smiled and went directly to the small group of Chen Hao, Fang Qing, Helian Wuzi, Moe, and Lu Yunfeng. Fang Qing was obviously very familiar with this person and asked in surprise. This enchanting figure was none other than Yunfian, whom he had met once before. With so many free experts as bodyguards, Big Sister will go and join in the fun. While I'm at it, I'll also go to the Tortoise Empire to purchase some things, Yunfian lightly smiled and said in a very flirtatious manner. As she spoke, her beautiful eyes looked at Chen Hao without any misgivings. With a flash, she arrived beside Chen Hao and said, "Little junior brother, we haven't seen each other for over a year. Did you miss me? You've truly surprised me. I've heard that you've become a rank 5 martial emperor. Not only did your strength increase astonishingly, you've also become more and more handsome, haha." That intimate voice and those affectionate words caused Chen Hao to have a headache. He was speechless. Fang Qing was also slightly surprised. She did not expect that Yunfian actually knew Chen Hao. As for Helian Wuzi, her ice-cold little face slightly frowned. She seemed to be unable to restrain herself from looking at Yunfian with a trace of hostility. "You must be little Wu, right? What a beautiful little girl. No wonder little junior brother doesn't even bother to pay attention to a great beauty like me." The extremely astute Yunfian was truly too amazing. With just a casual sentence, she managed to cause Helian Wuzi's face to turn red and her hostility to disappear. With the experienced and knowledgeable Yunfian accompanying them, even though it was a boring flight, Chen Hao, Fang Qing, and the others did not feel bored in the slightest. Every time they passed by a place, Yunfian would tell them about it. To Chen Hao and the others who had never traveled far before, this was extremely useful. Dongfang Jian, Zhao Yunlong, and Bai Lishi were the head disciples of the 3 great palaces. They were also the people who had the greatest hope of entering the top 10 among the 35 disciples. They were all rank 8 martial emperors. Chen Hao, Dongfang Jun, and Zhao Yunfei were the most outstanding. Although they had no hope of entering the top 10, the 3 of them were still young and had plenty of time. In the competition 2 years later, they would definitely be able to shine brilliantly. There were also Zhuge Qingyun, Helian Wuzi, and Moe, who were slightly inferior but also had great hope. Before they set off, the hall master had repeatedly emphasized that their mission this time was only to participate. There was no need to care too much about their ranking. If their lives were to be in danger, they must admit defeat. That was because there were no rules or restrictions in the new talent ranking competition. One was responsible for their own life and death. Only by admitting defeat could one preserve their life. From this, one could imagine how intense the competition would be. I can finally have no misgivings. Chen Hao stared at the rapidly retreating mountains below him. His pitch-black eyes were shining brightly. From the Shao family until now, although the cultivation environment of the royal new show hall had changed greatly, Chen Hao still felt a sense of oppression. That sort of oppression was unable to allow him to do as he pleased. He had to be cautious and careful at every step. Just like when he faced the disciples of the Dongfang family. Even though he had countless opportunities to kill them, he could not kill them as he pleased. This was because both parties were restrained. Although Dongfang Jun was arrogant, he did not dare to go to the extreme. As for Chen Hao, he did not dare to do so either. However, the rookie ranking had no rules and would not affect the people around him or his family. This made Chen Hao excited from the bottom of his heart. After jumping out of the Zhenyuan kingdom, he no longer had any misgivings. As long as he was strong enough, the Zhenyuan kingdom would always be his family and friends' backing. Unless the Zhenyuan kingdom was destroyed, no one in the Zhenyuan kingdom would dare to touch his family and friends. For 6 days and 6 nights, other than the necessary recovery and meditation, the group didn't delay at all. They flew over 100,000 kilometers in the sky, crossed countless mountains, rivers, towns, and wilderness, and finally stepped into the vast Xuanwu Empire, which was full of outstanding people. Gazing at the sometimes undulating mountains, sometimes flat plains, and sometimes rivers and lakes, the disciples who walked out of the Jinyuan kingdom for the first time were all amazed by the rich, prosperous scenery. In particular, the heaven and earth spirit energy seemed to be getting thicker and thicker, which made these disciples feel the poverty of the Jinyuan kingdom. After several hours, a vast and majestic city that stretched as far as the eye could see appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Looking from afar, there were thousands of rays of light above the city, and the aura of treasures soared into the sky. It was many times more powerful than the Jinyuan kingdom's Deqian city. This is the capital of the Xuanwu kingdom, Longyuan city. It is also the location of the rookie ranking competition of the 8 kingdoms. The Xuanwu kingdom has a total of 32 vassal kingdoms, and 8 kingdoms form a group to determine the top 10 to qualify for the Black Tortoise Kingdom's rookie ranking competition. There are only 40 of the 32 vassal kingdoms. Every province in the Xuanwu kingdom has one. There are a total of 82 provinces, and each major faction in the capital has 10. In other words, there will be 132 participants in the rookie ranking competition. The hall master, who was flying at the front, suddenly turned around and said to everyone, "In the past 20 years of our Jinyuan kingdom, the one with the best results is Dongfang Ting of the Dongfang family. She is also the only disciple who passed through layers of selections to qualify for the 100 Empire ranking competition. Furthermore, she performed well in the 100 Empire ranking competition and became a disciple of a powerful sect. She is your role model. This time, our hopes are placed on Dongfang Jian, Xiao Yunlong, and Bai Lishi." Third update. The truly exciting world is about to begin. The painful low martial realm and the restrictive environment will also disappear. Passion is about to arrive. Brothers and sisters, please give your monthly votes to Dark Mountain. Please believe that Proud Heaven will soon be exciting. Dark Mountain will fight with all its might. Begging for monthly votes, begging for subscriptions. Please. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian.com to give your recommendation votes and monthly votes. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.